Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Well, the Russia situation just went from orange to red. It is now, in my mind, at a critical juncture. I want to get Ray McGovern, former CIA analyst, on very soon to talk about this. I want to get Colonel Schaefer on to give us his take on it. But quite frankly, I've been studying it very deeply, and we've been predicting where this would go. And unfortunately, it's going that direction because the globalists want it to go in that direction, and it's a very serious situation, to say the least. We're going to be breaking that down today. Ukrainian helicopter hit by grenade taking off. Ukraine helicopter has been crippled in a grenade attack in Kiev. Warns Moscow is engineering a third world war. That's the London Telegraph headline. Did you hear that? Third world war. That is the Ukraine foreign minister that's saying that, by the way, and also their vice El Presidente. Ukraine foreign minister ready to fight Russia is the headline from the Associated Press. Kerry warns Russia of expensive new sanctions. Putin warns of consequences as Ukraine steps up offensive. Russia wants to start World War III, Ukrainian prime minister. That's in CNBC. I mean, I'm reading mainline headlines here. Remember I told you a month ago this could turn into World War III? Oh, Alex, don't be a fearmonger. What, do the ICBMs have to come into orbit, back into orbit? Or back into the atmosphere and then come in and detonate over cities and airburst for us to be concerned? How traders can prepare for a worsening Ukraine crisis, CNBC. Russia now downgraded by S&P, proposes scorched earth retaliation against NATO countries economically. Pentagon, Russian spy ship tug operating near U.S. More Big Bear nuke bombers caught trying to go into British and European airspace. I mean, this is bad. And it's what you expect when the globalists want to bring in a new global crisis so that we're all distracted by their activities. And it is thoroughly disgusting that this is happening. The West went in 3 months ago when Ukraine voted to not join with the EU and to be sucked dry by that spider, and instead tried to stay somewhat neutral. I don't want Ukraine sucked dry by the Russian spider or the globalist spider. But the globalist spider is about, I don't know, let's not exaggerate, about 10 times bigger, fatter, older, more evil, and more anti-human. I mean, the Russian spider is just happy to be in power and control of its own population, is trying to breed a larger Ruski population because it realizes that its own system is collapsing. The globalist spider is a transhumanist, power-tripping spider that believes it's God and is attacking anything decent. So that's what we're dealing with here. And I mean, this is a big deal. I've got masses of incredible news here. And I don't know how I even get into the other news on the stock market and the police state and attacks on internet freedom, which we will cover, while we've got this Ukraine situation going on. But really, we've stated the facts. The facts are there. And it's deteriorating very quickly. When we come back, I'm going to try to very calmly walk through the scenario so far and then where the scenario will go in the future, or could go in the future. And it's going the very worst way. So that is all coming up today. But we've always known that a large global war is what's supposed to bring in the final world government. That's what the globalists have said themselves. And now it looks like they're trying to do it. They may have some backroom deal with Putin, and this may be staged. My gut tells me it's not. And that we're in a world of hurt. It's truly out of control. The globalists aren't going to let their system collapse without starting a world war. They're going to double down every time they're in a corner. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Straight ahead, big Bundy news as well. It's all coming up today. Why President Eisenhower for warning us of the dangerous rise of the military-industrial complex, and later in the speech, controlled by a technological elite. That is what we're facing, is a technocracy in the Bilderberg and Davos Group's own words. I am your host, Alex Jones, just someone who wants freedom, who's upset and angry, but also focused and mobilized in the face of this tyranny. And we have reached out to you. You have reached out to us. We've reached out to millions of others across the world, and we're having a real effect. That's why we're being attacked by all the White House mouthpieces, the globalist mouthpieces, and collaborators in the so-called liberty movement, Benedict Arnold's, to try to bring us down. And we are being prepared to be set up right now. That is clear, that they don't like the message we're putting out and the fact that it's resonating and being duplicated and being augmented and expanded. And so there's going to be some more demonization campaigns out there. Now I'm going to get into the off-the-chart news in Russia, off-the-chart news on the attack on free speech coming up in a moment. David Knight has been down here for over a year, one of our great reporters and co-host of this radio show and also the Nightly News. It's very hard to get a house here, buy a house here, because it has the biggest housing shortage in the country. Austin is the major boom city nationwide as people escape California and other areas destroyed by big government. And then they come here and vote to take our freedom. But hopefully folks from North Carolina and Kansas and Tennessee and a lot of other more libertarian areas will offset the socialists that are moving here. A lot of good Californians are moving here as well to escape it, but a lot of them are coming here to bring in their tyranny. But he's been off the last few days moving. And I guess out of one apartment into a house while they still try to buy a house. And so he's been listening to talk radio. He was listening to our local affiliate, 590 AM last night, because his brother-in-law out of North Carolina called him and said, you better go listen to Glenn Beck. Well, it re-airs here locally. And so he tuned in last night while packing the U-Haul, and he said, you know, we got to go into Glenn Beck's archive and find it. But he said, this is really bad. We have to do something about this. And I said, what did he say? He said, well, I'll just come in and tell you. But he told me over the phone right before broadcast. He's driving up here right now to be on in the next segment or at the bottom of the hour. Beck said that we want violent overthrow of the U.S. government, InfoWars, by name. And that we tried to cover up the Bundy supposed racist comments and that we were there and that basically that was our video or that we knew and tried to cover it up. Our people were there a week and a half ago. This was said last weekend. None of my reporters were there. We covered it yesterday when we saw it in the morning. When it had been out less than 12 hours, we got Bundy on. And I said the way they edited his comments, I think sounded, you know, very offensive and racist, but that I understood where he was coming from. And he said, no, I meant they've traded out one form of slavery for the other. But to basically say we're racist and we want violence. I mean, Beck, there's a reason you're getting sued right now, okay? And I don't think you're going to win. And I don't intend anything like that. But look, what you're doing is torturous interference. I know you're obsessed with my show. I know you watch it for years and take our guest and spin it. I don't care. That's fine. I just want to defeat tyranny. But what I'm trying to get at here is that he's putting out the exact talking points of Media Matters that on record is the White House, Direct conduit from the White House telling them what to do and say. MSNBC, CNN, I understand, saying I'm behind the Boston bombing and I'm deeply racist and, you know, all the rest of it. But to have Glenn Beck doing it, and I know what this is. He knows we're getting on affiliates all over the country. The show's exploding right now. Most of the stations we're on carry Glenn Beck. And he knows, because I've talked to some program directors, that there's little comments and things going on from the people in his office, not even a syndicator, Premier, about me and how I'm a bad show to have. And this has been going on behind the scenes. And then a lot of times I'm on live and Glenn Beck's on at night. He doesn't like that. He's an egomaniac. My show ends up getting picked up on Sunday live. While we do that show, people get a taste of it. Then they put us on at night, and then invariably we end up going on live. And I mean, they literally replace Rush Limbaugh with us in areas of the country and get better ratings. And I'm not I never had this slot to go up against Rush Limbaugh. I didn't want this slot. I had a nighttime show that GCN made me 17 years ago change to a daytime slot. And I said, I think it's a horrible idea. I don't want to go up against Rush Limbaugh. I need to go after stations at night. There's no way stations are going to dump Limbaugh for me. And they said, you're so good. His name was Michael Trudeau, and Ted Anderson still runs the network, but Michael Trudeau was like, I'm going to put Sean up against him. You're going to take over. Well, I guess he was about 15 years, early on that. But the point is that I want Rush Limbaugh to be on every TV station in the country because his ideas are a lot better than what the controlled left puts out. I want Glenn Beck to have 50 million listeners. I want Glenn Beck to sell 100 million books. I want Glenn Beck to have long days, pleasant nights. Because I agree with most of what he has to say. But, man, it's a big deal when somebody says you're a racist with no proof. It's a big deal. When they say that you want to overthrow the U.S. government and have violence to, 5, 6, 7, 8 million people a day, I mean, that's really meant to hurt me. I mean, I don't care when MSNBC says it with 500,000 viewers and people know they're a pack of liars. That's a big deal when Glenn Beck does that to me. And I don't know what he thinks I'm going to do. I mean, I'm not going to take that line down. So, we've got such bigger issues with Russia, huge issues with Obama trying to get the guns, trying to bust the borders, overrunning the Constitution, that I'll probably just let him walk all over me. But at a certain level, man, when people don't want you to be on the air and they want to get you off stations and they'll lie about you to do it, and I'm not even in competition with him. And Rush Limbaugh's done nothing bad to me. He's said snide things about me a few times when he didn't agree with something somebody wrote on my website, and that's fine. I don't agree with everything on there, but a lot of times he covers our story. He doesn't really give us credit. But I happen to know from behind the scenes some folks that play golf with him that he actually agrees with us more than he disagrees and listens to the show sometimes. Limbaugh, we're in competition with Rush Limbaugh, directly up against him. And he doesn't do this kind of crap. And I mean, this is dangerous, folks, to have somebody on the air saying that you want to overthrow the government, want a violent overthrow. We already played clips like that 2 weeks ago. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today. But I dare somebody like Glenn Beck to say that to my face. That's all I've got to say. Because I got a family, and I've already put myself in the crosshairs. And this is Benedict Arnold type stuff, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is textbook Benedict Arnold crap. And our affiliates out there who listen, the program directors and owners, they know what I say on air, and they're standing beside us and supporting us and not dumping our show, Beck. Go make your movies, ghostwrite your books, do whatever you're going to do, man. I'm not jealous or envious of you, okay? I understand until 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, you were a shock jock that did shock trash, type radio, Howard Stern wannabe stuff. I don't care. I understand you picked up my show and duplicated it and made it more palatable. I understand that you're obsessed with me. I understand that. I get it, okay? But listen, I'm happy for you to imitate me and to take my knowledge. That's the whole point of this show. I want to beat the globalists. So I'm going to tell you again, stop now. Stop trying to set me up with Rachel Maddow in the White House. You may work with them.
Gentlemen, in search of $1 million.
But it knows the good guys lost.
The truth is, the globalists are gearing up for a civil war in this country. They're going to start. And a lot of libertarian and conservative talk show hosts are scared. And they're going to join with the globalists in the takeover of this country. And they're going to demonize anybody who stands up for freedom and the Constitution. And they're going to salute the black uniforms as I and others like Ron Paul are hauled off to prison. And as Rand Paul is discredited and destroyed. I don't think it's going to get to that because the American people aren't going to be intimidated and called racist and called terrorist. That's not going to work. Calling anybody that supports land rights or anybody that doesn't want free speech zones or snipers pointing guns at peaceful protesters with tasers and police dogs. If you don't like that, you're a domestic terrorist, you're an insurgent, you're an extremist, and yes, you're a racist if they can find anybody involved who talks in a hillbilly dialect. That's how all this propaganda works. And a lot of people get scared by it. And a lot of Republican leadership wants to continue the land grabs. They want to continue the bid rigging. They want to continue the no-bid contracts. They want to continue business as usual. Well, business as usual is collapsing this country. And we either change course now or we go off the edge into oblivion. Now, I'm going to talk with Knight briefly about what he heard Beck say last night. And I guess we're going to dig through the video and audio files of it yesterday and post it just to document what we're saying. But it doesn't matter. A lot of you probably heard it, saying that we want violence and that we're basically covering up the racism of Bundy and that we were out there at the ranch 2 weeks ago when he said all this, when we all now know this was taped Saturday and was not by our reporters. And, of course, we reported on it. I mean, it's one thing to say Bundy could be a hillbilly or maybe racist. I don't think that's the case. He's certainly a fossil, though. And I think some of the stuff he said could be taken as offensive. I mean, like, there's black people out here. I'll bring one in the house and got them around here. I mean, it's just literally out in the middle of nowhere. It'd be like, I brought a Yankee in here. I saw one of them. City slicker. I mean, these are folks in the desert, 7 generations. So, I mean, I think the Bundys are good people overall, and I think he just says what he's thinking. But compared to aborting 52% of black people, compared to all the other evil that's going on around here, we're letting them change the subject off of what almost became a new Tiananmen Square out there in the desert onto a statement. And by the way, we have the unedited statements of Cliven Bundy up on Infowars.com, where he said everything he said about, I want to help black folks in the Spanish. Nobody, I don't want to hear they don't pay taxes and work hard. It's wrong. They need their liberty, and we don't need to reverse the changes that were made during the 60s for liberty. We don't need to go back, and that's what this big government's doing. We got the full video up on Infowars.com and the transcript, so now I see what he's saying about it being out of context. Because when I had him on yesterday, because we were trying to cover it up, that's why we were the first to recover it and get a response from him, the first that we know of. I think it was one of the radio show had him on before us, that I saw on Drudge. So I guess the second. The point is, within hours of this breaking in the New York Times, the day it broke, we have him on and are sitting there saying we don't agree with the way this had been spun and making sure this wasn't what he really stood for. And then we've already got MSNBC, CNN, and Glenn Beck, and Media Matters, and Vanity Fair saying that I'm with this guy and that I want violent overthrow. That's not what Bundy wants, and that I'm a racist. I mean, it's just really, really creepy to have this type of stuff going on. And now it turns out he was telling the truth. People go, well, he did make the cotton picking point. Yes, he was saying that that was not in the context of the quote. And now we have the full quote, and it turns out he was telling the truth. So now that you see it in full context, clearly this is like my great-grandfathers. I talked to my parents about this last night, did not talk like this. But I've always run into hillbillies in the middle of nowhere that do talk like this. And they're actually not racist. They are literally out of a time machine. But there's bad things if you go back in a time machine. There's also good things. They're saying no to the feds and no to Tiananmen Square because they're so old-fashioned. That's the good part of their old-fashionedness, is to be straight shooting and to stand up against tyranny. But then it's like talking to somebody who got off a time machine from 150 years ago. It sounds really weird to modern trendies and metrosexuals and everybody else, and quite frankly, myself included. Because he's such a straight shooter and tells you exactly what he's thinking, no political correctness. But wouldn't you rather that than the new religion of political correctness? Now, when we come back, the really big news that this is distracting from. This Bundy thing's becoming like the Malaysian airliner. Russia wants to start World War III, Ukrainian Prime Minister.
We're on.
Science fiction becomes reality. Thank you, Charlton Heston. We reported about a month ago, and people didn't even believe the story, that UK hospitals were burning the bodies of aborted babies to heat the hospitals. Well, LifeSite News, Breitbart, and the Examiner, Drudge has it, drudgereport.com, are all reporting Oregon energy plant burns aborted babies to generate electricity for the state. And now the state is saying that they're going to halt that. Oregon County put stop to incinerating aborted babies for electricity. Quote, we are outraged. They didn't even know that was going on. And meanwhile, speaking of Oregon, cover Oregon Health Exchange website to shut down. I mean, that's how fraudulent all of this garbage is via Obamacare. Now, here's the big news today, and it ties in to the attack on free speech as well. There's just a war on every front and a bunch of key economic news. This news is so big that, quite frankly, I shouldn't cover anything but this. But what I'm going to do is, at the start of the next hour, I will focus as professionally as I can and muster all of my oratory skills and try to break down what's happened in Ukraine and where I believe it's going. Now, you know, so far I've predicted what was going to happen, and it's starting to happen. It's not hard to predict. This is a globalist plan. So I'm really looking at what they're doing, what they've done in the past, and their programs of destabilization. And so it's not really even predicting, except this is Russia, and the outcomes are so horrible that I can't believe this is happening. And if I was a coward, or even if I had more self-preservation instincts, I would be getting my family out of the United States right now. And I'm not saying that that means we're going to have a nuclear war, but if there was, say, a 10% chance that there was going to be a nuclear war, would you get your family out of major target sites, like the middle of Texas? Or if there was a 10% chance robbers were coming to kill you, would you get out of your house that night? I'd say there's a 10% chance, probably higher, that we're going to have a full-out nuclear war. And people have heard my show for 19 years. Some of you have been listening that long in Austin. Been syndicated for almost 18. You know I've never talked like that. Usually nuclear war threats are just stuff the government uses to hype. This is a really bad situation. It's so horrible that it's beyond having a nasty feeling in my mind and in my chest and my stomach. It's more just a feeling of unbelief, disbelief. Let me just read you these headlines, okay? And then I'm going to get to this at the start of the next hour. Russia wants to start World War III, Ukrainian Prime Minister. That's CNBC. That's not Alex Jones. Here's AP. Ukraine Foreign Minister ready to fight Russia. AP. London Telegraph. Ukraine helicopter hit by a grenade taking off. A Ukraine helicopter has been crippled in a grenade attack as Kiev warns Moscow is engineering a third world war. Third World War. Did you hear that? Putin warns of consequences as Ukraine steps up offensive. Bloomberg. Kerry warns Russia of expensive new sanctions. On the heels of that, S&P downgrades Russia. Russia threatens scorched earth retaliation against NATO countries. That's a Zero Hedge up on Infowars.com. Washington Free Beacon. Pentagon, Russia spy ship, tug operations near U.S. Ships near nuclear submarine base in Kings Bay, Georgia. They're surveilling and obviously getting ready for submarine-launched cruise missile attacks on the U.S. Can't stop those cruise missiles, folks. So the Russians have moved cruise missiles into the coast. They don't need Cuba anymore. Thanks a lot, New World Order. How traders are preparing for a worsening Ukraine crisis, CNBC. We have the twin dangers of the Ukraine crisis, an article by Newt Gingrich that basically tells the truth other than demonizing Russia. It admits it caused World War III. That's CNN. Okay. What's the issue here? This was triggered when Ukraine didn't vote 3.5 months ago to go under EU spinnerets and be rolled up and put in the web to be sucked dry. They didn't want to jump in the spider web, so they activated the paramilitary groups to blow up government buildings and firebomb everything, open Nazis, Heiling Hitler. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And then to take over the country. And I'm not saying that a lot of Ukrainians don't have beef with Russia and that Russia isn't another tyranny. The point is that the West started this. And I said the Russians are going to grab certain areas that they control and need, and then the other Russians in the East are going to want to join Russia. They're going to stand up themselves. They're not going to want to be ethnically cleansed. A civil war is going to break out. They're going to send in the Ukrainian military, NATO, CIA-backed. The Russians are going to fight back. The Russians are going to roll armor in. If NATO responds militarily, boom, nuclear war. I mean, that's the scenario next hour I'm going to walk through with you. And my gut tells me this is not some higher-level deal with Putin where they're going to just divide the two countries and act like that it was a fight. And the decision has been made to cut the country in two, and Russia gets to suck eastern Ukraine dry, and NATO and the EU get to suck the other side dry, like the Hitler-Stalin pact with Poland. Now, I think that's in the cards and being discussed. Diplomatically, they always have multiple game plans, but that's not where this is going. And the hardening of structures, the digging in, the bunkers here, the bunkers in Russia, the global financial crisis. Rand Corporation 2 years ago saying they want a major theater war, maybe a third world war, to bring in the world government. This could be it. 5 years before Joel Skousen says it's coming. And I think Joel's a smart guy, but... And we'll get him on, maybe next week, maybe Sunday. I'll be live this Sunday. I will be in studio live this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. We've had family stuff come up, and then I've had stuff happen, like Easter. So I've missed a few of the Sunday shows. And my grandmother, I don't want to get into it. She's 89, and she's had a fall about a month ago, and we've been taking care of her. I don't want to get off into all that, but she's stabilized now. So that's why I've been missing some time. When it rains, it pours. I had a bunch of other family stuff going on. So but I'm here. I only take a few days off here and there. I probably take more time off. It's just when it rains, it pours. A lot of other family stuff I'll tell you about later, but very soon. But the point is that all hell's been breaking loose around here. But I'll be live this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m., Lord willing. Now, here's the issue. There are times in history when more happens in a year than happened the previous 50. Many historians have said that. We're entering that key flux period right now where on every front, technological development, cultural changes, demographic changes, military operations, awakenings, decadence, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you're going to see a lot of things happen. And you're also, during crises, going to find out who's who. Benedict Arnold was probably the third, or after George Washington and General Greene, maybe the second greatest general of the 6-7 year war from 1775, officially 1776, that went on for the next 6 years or so. But it turned out the last 2 years he thought we were going to lose, and he'd been British the whole time. Most people fighting were British. They were tired of having their rights taken. They most of them been redcoats. George Washington, all of them. And so he was a double agent the whole time, the last 2 years at least, because he thought he was going with the winners. He didn't all in for what he thought was right. He was a pragmatist, a sociopath. I can officially say, after 5 years, 6 years of Glenn Beck lying about me and attacking me, that he is a Benedict Arnold. There's no doubt that's who he is. For whatever reason, he may have always been a globalist. He may have always been bad news. I don't attack him when he said horrible lies about me. I mean, God, he said I have sex with Charlie Sheen in showers, folks. I knew Charlie Sheen very well before he got back on drugs and melted down. I met him through his brother, who's been a longtime listener, Emilio Estevez, and his dad. I'll leave it at that. The family were listeners before Charlie Sheen. And I've spent a lot of time at Martin Sheen's house. He's not the big liberal people think he is. They kind of manipulate the media who he really is. They're really smart people. His mother's an amazing lady. But that's the kind of stuff, and I ignore stuff like that. You can say that's a joke. But then when he's always implying that I want civil war, want to kill police, and that I'm covering up racism, and that the Alex Jones side wants violence, as he said a week and a half ago, enough is enough. Because when he says any civil disobedience like we saw it at the Bundy Ranch is bad and he's against it, and he's really showing you who he is. When he said 3 years ago on Fox that, we played this last week, that the government's going to stage terror attacks and blame the Liberty Movement for it. Well, he had their memos. He's right. He was listening to me then. He was, I guess, having a moment of thinking, oh, I'm scared they're going to set me up and blame me. I'll expose it. Well, now he's scared and doesn't want to go the route of telling the truth. Benedict Arnold, who was a great general, who we wish would have stayed true to the cause, has cowarded out and decided to fully join the system. So, and he doesn't like the fact that we're on a lot of the same affiliates as him. And so I'm not against those affiliates. I think it's a good show for you to carry. But don't penalize me because Glenn Beck's talking bad about me every day now, basically. Okay, I'm not attacking anybody in the conservative or liberty movement. I'm trying to stop Obama and the globalists who use the race card. And now Beck, and I didn't hear it, but my reporter heard it and wrote down notes. And I guess you got to go to the subscription thing to get it, but somebody will put it on YouTube. And then we can play it for documentation here. But Knight wrote notes. He's got notes right there. His brother-in-law called him and heard it in the morning, so it re-airs on our local affiliate, 590. So we tuned in last night while he was moving in the U-Haul and listened to it and wrote notes. And it was the classic stuff I've heard. What's that site? That crazy guy? Oh, I don't know. InfoWars? Yeah, that nut. Yeah, guy that wants to overthrow the U.S. government, wants violence? Yeah, well, he knew about the Bundy stuff, tried to cover it up. Yeah, tried to cover up the racism. Man, that is real defamation, okay? We had nothing. We did absolutely no such thing at any level. And so this isn't about Beck. It's about what's going to happen when the globalists blow up a new Oklahoma City and try to blame us. What's going to happen when they start a new war? What's going to happen when they come after domestic groups and the guns? A lot of big hosts are going to say, well, go ahead and do it. And, well, Alex Jones has been arrested and Ron Paul just died of a stroke, wink, wink. Well, I think it's normal he died of a stroke. He was old and, yeah, Rand Paul just was in a car wreck. His back's broken. Alex Jones, you know, tried to shoot out with cops and they took him out. Or he got caught with a bunch of drugs, with a, you know, whatever. That's the kind of stuff they do. I want you to know that when that happens, folks, you're looking at an enemy operative. Okay? Because now he's crossed the Rubicon with me. David Knight, you heard this last night, and again, it's bigger than Beck. It shows that he's scared. He's decided to throw in with the Southern Poverty Law Center the exact talking points of the White House-run Media Matters. Michael Savage isn't doing this. He's getting more hardcore. We salute him. He's not a coward. Sean Hannity's not being a coward. Rush Limbaugh's not being a coward. Glenn Beck has shown himself to be a really dangerous person. And I don't do this on air. I have to protect myself in the liberty movement. David, what did you hear last night?
Well, Alex, it really got me upset. As you point out, they were saying, pretending that they didn't know what InfoWars was or that they'd never heard of InfoWars. But what he's doing is he's playing a very dangerous game, and he's totally mischaracterizing what happened there on Saturday the 12th. When this thing came out yesterday with the New York Times, he's essentially doing the Al Sharpton, Southern Poverty Law Center talking points, the way the New York Times edited and distorted and spun Bundy's comments, and he's doubling down on it, taking their talking points. But what was also bad was the way he was portraying Bundy, the people with him, and even us as being the aggressors, as being the people who are threatening. He's trying to pretend that he's Gandhi. He's not Gandhi. He's a Quisling. What happened there? I
mean, you told me, quote.
Yes.
You said he said, you know, the InfoWars group wants the violent overthrow.
Yes. What he was saying was, he said, they're pushing for this. He goes, when I heard that it was, I knew from the beginning that I wanted to be on the other side of the story because InfoWars made this a national story. He goes, that should be a red flag. Not a false flag, ha, 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 no, but a red flag.
I'm not blaming Drudge, I'm giving him the credit. Drudge made it a national story. We broke it, he made it national. Exactly. It is a big story.
And he's saying that, you know, we're constantly pushing for revolution. I think that's not true. What happened there is exactly what Glenn Beck claims he wants to see happen. And that is people peacefully standing up with loaded guns in their face like Tiananmen Square. Now, some people, I didn't see anybody down there with a gun on them, but there were, well, actually, there was a couple of guys that were holding rifles, but nobody was pointing anything.
Back up there.
There was one guy on the bridge. They keep showing that picture from multiple angles, okay?
But the point is that now it's been projected onto us, and now we weren't there this weekend when he made the black comments, right. And then he said basically we were involved in that.
He said these guys are embedded there, they're everywhere. He goes, they know that he was making those comments last Saturday. Well, that was not even the same Saturday. He's totally out of the scene.
He's not wrong. Yeah. I know his insider people. He's got at least 4 FBI agents with him at all times, so-called retired. This is FBI. Yeah. Just like Al Sharpton's FBI, I will bet my right arm the FBI is feeding all this to Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck is the FBI. So of course, they're attacking us. This is the FBI, the Obama FBI.
With the globalists making more on
network.
By the way, a lot of this has come out in the news that Beck has up to 20 security people at his house and office and goes around with an entourage as many as 35. But he admittedly has, quote, retired FBI agents. The number I was given was over 6, but 4 at any one time that live at his house and stuff. And when you look at the talking points, these are White House. This is This is Eric Holder's Justice Department, Harry Reid talking points. And I started seeing that 2 weeks ago and got really freaked out, David Knight. And I said, man, and he was just waiting the whole time to then open up an attack. And now now I was sent by one of our affiliates the clip. We're getting it queued up. In fact, it's ready right now. Part of this diatribe you heard saying we want revolution, we want violence. They're positioning him as a Judas goat to lead the liberty movement. It all just clicked.
Yes.
He is actually Benedict Arnold. He actually works for Obama. And I'm sorry I have to say that. He really does.
They wasted no time at all. The day...
Well, no, he was the leader, even before the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Oh, yeah.
He's been carrying the ball. He was putting the talking points out before the White House Media Matters.
He had 7 talking points the day after the shootout. It was the #1 story, and when I Googled Clive Bundy, that's why I read his story.
Our story was #1 because of Drudge.
That's right, but after the standoff, what he did was he had a story out there with 7 talking points, basically saying there's no connection to Harry Reid. The BLM acted perfectly reasonably. There's no problem with the Desert Tortoise. I mean, ignoring Agenda 21, and then
it's sovereign citizen, using the Southern Poverty Law Center catchphrase, the White House catchphrase. This is John P. Holdren.
Yeah.
I mean, John P. Holdren, Eric Holder.
Well, they had the article on Sunday after the Saturday showdown, and then on Monday he had Clive Bundy on, and they tried to put words in his mouth and hang the label of sovereign citizen movement.
By the way, has there not been a directive the full year you're here to not attack Glenn Beck and not talk about him?
That's right.
Have there been any other directives about anything else?
No.
Just tell the truth.
It was very hard to do that.
And don't infight and keep the eyes on stopping the globalists.
That's right. That's right.
And how many attacks did we ignore?
A lot. And you know.
But I am not going to hear that I want a violent revolution, so when the feds blow up another Oklahoma City, I get the blame. And this guy handled by, I'm telling you, it all just clicked, just like I knew Reid was involved, and they're scared. This guy probably actually meets with Obama.
Yeah, it's not just Cass Sunstein saying that he's going to pit one group of alternative media against another. He says he's going to infiltrate it and lead it away, like you talked about at Judas Goat.
Well, I'm telling you, folks, if something happens to me or Drudge or WorldNet Daily, Joseph Farah, it's now been declassified, was on the Clinton hit list. And he's coming on the 3rd hour today. And now you got all this internet censorship stuff coming up in the next hour. They're moving right now. Let me tell you who's real. WorldNet Daily, Drudge, InfoWars. People shown who's on the right side, even though he said he didn't like these comments, which I agree with, the way they're taken. Sean Hannity. I'm not saying he's perfect. The point is we're really finding out who's who, man. Let's go to this clip one of our affiliates sent us of what you said you heard last night. Here's Beck.
Quite honestly, some of the people from, what's that stupid website's name?
Are you talking about the crazy conspiracy InfoWars?
InfoWars. Because these guys were so deeply embedded with the Bundys, we thought there's something wrong. Because if you're a spiritual person and you don't see these guys a mile away,
that's a red flag, right?
That's a real red flag, and it's not a false flag. These guys are dangerous. They are looking for revolution. They're looking for a fight. And you just keep those guys a million miles away from you. And anybody with any spiritual radar should see that one coming.
That's right. If you have spiritual radar, you know that his lie that we want violence is true. Now, we're defensive, saying we just want private property, our families, Second Amendment. We just want states' rights. We just want freedom. We don't want Agenda 21. We just want liberty. And then the other clips are we're racist, too. So,
you know, he keeps talking about Ghana. He keeps talking about peaceful, nonviolent resistance. That's exactly what we did. The fact that you've got somebody with a 6-shooter in his holster walking up to somebody that's got an AR-15 trained on him, hiding behind shields, barking over the loudspeaker that they're going to shoot. That is peaceful,
Look, you know, when Obama makes his move, Beck's going to support it.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, something just clicked. He talked about how if they ever had courts, I would want to put him in a FEMA camp. I just realized something. He looks forward to them arresting him. Man, he projected on me.
Yeah.
He wants to arrest me.
Live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
All right, some stations join us in the 2nd and 3rd hour. Ultra important Ukraine news. Headline out of CNBC, Russia wants to start World War III. I mean, this is getting crazy. So I'm going to break that down, take your calls coming up. But we wouldn't just cover this if it was Glenn Beck just saying this, but he's saying it off White House talking points, Media Matters talking points that he originated. So for anybody that's trained in tracking psyops and stuff, now it all clicked for me. Why he says I want him arrested and put in a camp He said that a week and a half ago. We played the bizarre clip. Why he says I want violence, why he says InfoWars wants violence, is covering up the racism of Clive and Bundy, that we were there and knew about this. Within hours of us seeing it, we had him on and covered it and said the way it was spun is terrible. We're all about fighting racism here, real racism, you know, divide and conquer. And to have him do this, David, bottom line, what's your analysis on this? Because this is really dangerous.
Well, the bottom line is the best thing you could say about Glenn Beck is that he just doesn't know what's going on. He's totally uninformed and doesn't care, and he's spinning things. I don't think that's what's happening. Rush has talked about the drive-by media. We saw that happen out there. I would say that Glenn Beck is the comfy couch media. You know, at best case, if you're listening to him, you don't think that he's an FBI shill. The best you can say about him is that he's
an Obama FBI shill.
That's right. The best you can say is he's sending half a continent away. He doesn't have any reporters out there. He's not reading any of the facts. He's totally misconstruing everything. I don't think that's what's happening. The day after this happened, he had 7 talking points going in and defending Harry Reid, defending the BLM, ignoring the fact that they were pointing snipers at unarmed people all week.
And tasering and police dogging and saying, we'll shoot you. And Americans finally stood up and peacefully stood against it. But we didn't even have any guns. A few people did, and now we're leading it.
Exactly.
Now, I mean, I was there saying no violence, no violence, you know, over the radio. You were there covering it, and now he's lying about me, so they set me up. People go, well, he got what he deserved.
Yeah, he's used everything he can to assassinate the character of Clive and Bundy and assassinate our character. And as Jesse Ventura said, I don't know if it was his original expression or not, first they assassinate your character, then they assassinate you.
That was Gandhi. It was Gandhi.
Okay, that's what Gandhi said, okay? But that's the technique that they use. And he wants to compare himself to Gandhi. He's really a quisling. He is really selling out.
He's not. He's totally handled.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
What he is a he's a sociopath.
Yeah.
He thinks like doing whatever he wants makes him a winner. Not in God's eyes.
That's right. If he had even read his book on Agenda 21, I'm sure he had somebody ghostwrite it for him, he would have understood what was going on there as part of many different aspects. There's a lot of different aspects. There's crony capitalism, there's corruption, there's Agenda 21, there's an out-of-control police state. He has ignored and talked against all those as if he were the New York Times or as if he were the Southern Poverty.
Well, it's in the BLM documents that they wanted Bundy's land for the environmental easement.
Yes. Yes.
Where they say, we can build on this if we have this as an easement. And they go, oh, we're lying. And we said we lied about the bullets.
Well, he laughed at Bundy on the Monday night show and said, oh, you're going back to the 1860s to try to support your argument. When the BLM confiscated land in Texas, confiscated that farmer's land, they went back to the 1803 Louisiana Purchase. What Bundy is doing, he's going back to the Constitution.
The oldest thing in land is the most powerful. Exactly. Look, Rick Perry says he'll go kick the feds off if they're trying to grab land. Well, what, is Rick Perry an extremist now?
Of course, they did the same thing in Nevada to a man who's part of the Shoshone Indian tribe. You know, and as Russell Means pointed out, he said, every treaty we've had with the U.S. government, they've broken. Your treaty with the U.S. government is the Constitution, and they're breaking it now. As his book, Where White Men Fear to Tread. That's exactly what's going on here. What they've done to the Indians and the reservations is what they want to do to everybody.
And that video is called Welcome to the Reservation. If you guys can find that, it's like an hour long. He died last year, an amazing individual. Again, you meet him, he's totally different than what the media said he was. It's incredible how they distort who people are. And that's what I realized. They're distorting who I am.
Yes.
MSNBC says I'm deeply racist. Beck says that now, with no proof.
Yes.
Because they want people that don't know who I am to think, oh, I don't listen to him, he's deeply racist.
They always play the racist and the terrorist card. And the first person to play the terrorist card was Glenn Beck. He played it 3 days before Harry Reid said.
Well, no, that's the thing, is that with people like Glenn Beck on the supposed patriot movement, who needs the liberals? I mean, he literally is becoming Obama. Glenn Beck becomes Obama. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, we're here discussing history, discussing the present, the future, looking at legislation, looking at global trends, giving you the good news, the bad news, and the, quite frankly, over-the-top, insane, sensational news that only reality can bring you. I have been radicalized by reality. I have been radicalized by first being on the air in 1995 when almost no one was really using the internet and covering government documents dealing with Pentagon bases in upstate New York where they were producing goats that were part spider to create Spider-Man-like body armor out of their milk. And I would cover it off of scientific journals that I would get at the library, and people would say I was a liar. And then suddenly scientists and journalists and engineers would hear my show and send me trade journals and things of even more insane things. Now, by 96, 97, the internet got bigger, more stuff was on it. But I got frustrated by the fact that things like that and hundreds of other things were real, but people thought I was a crazy conspiracy theorist for talking about it. Now everyone knows about goats that are part spider. There's been thousands of news articles about it. I mean, I've been at dinner parties and told people that 15, 20 years ago you could buy in Hong Kong glowing rhesus monkeys that glow in the dark. Because I was sent trade publications on that. Back then they cost $500,000. Now they cost $5,000 last time I saw. I'm tempted to buy one, but that gives money to the abusive practice of cross-species engineering. Do you know what the genetic engineers have said on my broadcast about this? At any time, this is going to give rise to superbugs. It may have already done it, and cause zoological diseases to jump into humans, and is so deadly dangerous it'll make your head spin. And I'm only telling you about let's be conservative, 100,000th of what's going on. The pharmacological crops. I remember reading an AP article back in 2002 about Protigen in Texas with open-air crops in Kansas and other areas that had live HIV growing in the corn. And I read it and said, isn't that frightening? It could jump into humans. It could become airborne. And they had people in spacesuits out after I reported off the AP, because I said this could be dangerous, out burning it all over Kansas and Texas and one other state. And it was in the news, local news, that guys in spacesuits were out burning it from the federal government. Actual government helicopters landed and burned it. So I got to say, the government actually does good sometimes. I pointed out that Dr. Pianka was at a presentation, one of the heads of the biology department at UT, and said he wants airborne Ebola to be released to kill 90% of us, and that he and his family are ready to die. And I pointed out that he and his undergraduates were working on stuff like that. And I quoted some of his undergraduates and that have become PhDs, doctors, and them saying we need to get rid of all humans. The FBI visited him. That was in the Austin American-Statesman. So I don't think the government's our enemy. It's just a complex system that has corporate and other interests controlling it. We need to get control of it. Yeah, there it is. Dr. Doom, Eric Pianka, received standing ovation from Texas Academy of Science and then gets a visit from the FBI. And I said the FBI should visit him. The FBI did. The FBI is a diverse organization run by Eric Holder right now, so that's why you see them demonizing gun owners and shipping guns into Mexico with the ATF to blend the Second Amendment. But I'm going to get into the Ukraine situation. It's just that I don't make stuff up, is my point. Every once in a while, I get things wrong, and I admit when I get things wrong. I wish I was wrong about all this. It's not fun to have White House-run CNN, MSNBC, Media Matters, saying I'm deeply racist with no proof, and that I'm violent, and I want to kill cops, and I want a war. They're saying that so cops start thinking I'm a bad guy, so when they set me up, nobody comes to my aid. I'm being set up. But that's part of the mission. I mean, look. I will say it again. One of my grandfathers was a fighter pilot, crash landed, almost died in World War II. My other grandfather flew B-17s. Before that, he flew Liberator flying coffins out of North Africa. Once they got him into Italy, he was in B-17s. He got sunstroke in a mission, and then the next mission, or 2 missions later, his whole crew got blown up and died, to give you an example of how I barely survived. And my point of using that analogy is, they knew when they were flying into flat clouds, that was the factories they had to bomb. I know when I get enemy attacks that I'm over the target. So if I get killed or set up, let's just get one thing straight. You didn't have a victory over me, New World Order. I knew what I was climbing into. I knew the cockpit I was getting into. I am steering into the flak. The more I get, the more I know I'm on target. So I just want everybody to understand that I'm in this to win it. I'm not in this because I'm a narcissist. I'm not in this because I want a big name for myself. I am in an absolute war that I know is real. I've committed my full life to it. And I feel like I'm not doing a good enough job to fight these tyrants. I believe in humanity and I'm committed. And I want to believe in other libertarian talk show hosts. I want to believe in you. I want to beat these people. I want a better world. I want to uphold my family name. I want to be honorable. I want to look at the facts and try to give you the most reasoned, historical, morally based analysis I can. And I'm impure myself. I'm worldly myself. I'm not perfect, folks. I'm not on some high horse. I'm not here lecturing you. I know we're on the edge of World War III. I know the globalists are doing reckless things on every front. And I think the hand of God, in fact, I know, is the only reason we haven't already had a nuclear war or a huge bioweapons release. And I pray every day that we not totally collapse. Because history shows elites become arrogant, they become megalomaniacal, and they destroy civilizations. Before, they didn't have thermonuclear weapons and bioweapons. I mean, the Huns, thousands of years ago, were catapulting plague-ridden black plague bodies over Chinese fortress walls. So I guess bioweapons are ancient and aren't new, but I mean more sophisticated ones. I just want everybody out there to have a good life and to have a chance to be empowered. I'm not anybody's enemy. I don't want a war with the occupied federal government, because I know that's part of the plan. I don't want any cops to be killed. And everybody knows I say that every day. I'm trying to stop a staged civil war. And so the response is by the Southern Poverty Law Center, ADL, Media Matters, CNN, MSNBC, and Glenn Beck, is that I want a bloody civil war and I'm a racist. And that's because, ladies and gentlemen, they don't like the fact that I know who they are. They don't like the fact that I see right through their baloney. Now, do you agree with me that we're on the edge on so many fronts, economic, spiritual, cultural, biological, that we're not on the edge of a crisis, we're already going down into the valley. We're going into the valley of crises, into the pit. We're marching into hell. And I just want to turn this around. You know, these government-run churches tell you it's foregone conclusion that everything has been predestined. Well, then why is so many times in the Bible do the prophets go and tell the people repent and turn back, and they do, and they get a 100-year reprieve like Nineveh? Or God sent Moses to free the Israelites. I mean, or 1776. I mean, do we just have to give in to evil and say the world's over and this is the way it is? I mean, maybe it is. But I don't like people saying we can't do anything. Or every time someone stands up and says, let's try to be good, everyone says, oh, you can't do that. There's no such thing. I'm just one little guy who had dyslexia and a learning disability and could hardly spell, who pretty much by myself built a giant independent media operation that reaches conservatively 15 million people, probably 20 million a week. I know the power of taking action. I know the power of good people. I know the power of free association and what you've done helping us to spread the word and what we've done for you together. As brothers and sisters in liberty, I don't care what color you are or where you come from or what religion. I want you to have a future. I want justice. Cliven Bundy spoke out against blacks killing most of their babies. In his speech, the full unedited speech is on InfoWars. Is he racist for using the term Negro, United Negro College Fund, the Negro League? I mean, for old-timers, folks, that's the term blacks wanted to be known as. Is he insensitive? No, he's a fossil, pointing out the new slavery of the old. But MSNBC knows for modern yuppies ignorant, they don't know that. They play on your ignorance. Unedited video shows Bundy making pro-black, pro-Mexican comments. Go read it for yourself. It actually sounds like Jeb Bush talking about Mexicans. But it doesn't matter. By the end of the day, they'll say he hates Mexicans because they are the real race pimps creating divide and conquer. Is Cliven Bundy an FBI asset? No. No. Al Sharpton is. Does Cliven Bundy have a bunch of FBI on his staff? No. Glenn Beck does. And I just got done telling you, the FBI, when I said on air, this guy needs to be questioned, they went and questioned the guy that wants the Ebola to be released. I'm not saying the whole FBI is bad. In fact, I've known FBI agents growing up. They've been really Boy Scout, really good people. The issue is they are compartmentalized. I've had family in the CIA, Boy Scouts, you know, track stars, the quarterback. Marching, my friends,
the rusted chains of prison move
towards what all analysts openly say, all analysts I've seen on television or read across the political spectrum say could easily lead to thermal nuclear war. Russian submarines carrying supersonic, hydrogen bomb-tipped cruise missiles are now popping up off the coast of the United States, clearly to launch attacks, if given the go-ahead codes, against U.S. East Coast sub-bases and aircraft carrier bases. Russia is openly saying that they are prepared for nuclear war if any of the globalist forces in Ukraine launch attacks on Russian interest. This is being done, my friends, so that they can bring Europe into a greater crisis and keep the EU from collapsing and suck tens of trillions more out of taxpayers to inject it into the globalist derivatives crime syndicate. And Soros has openly said they need this crisis to bring in a new Marshall Plan. This is epic. And I want to now go to the current things that are happening, then to the past and into the future of the different scenarios that we face, ladies and gentlemen. This is out of CNBC. Russia wants to start World War III. Ukrainian prime minister, whose deputy prime minister openly does Hitler salutes and wears swastikas. Again, this is all over the top. That's mainstream news. This is who Obama and the globalists put in power when Ukraine wouldn't vote 3.5 months ago to join the EU. I almost wish they would have, so this wasn't happening. Ukraine's always been part of Russia in the East. Russia's grabbing its gas lines. The NATO general said yesterday, we are there to cut off their gas to Europe to teach Russia a lesson. Oh, that's all Russia's got is its gas money, its oil money. They're trying to collapse Russia. They've got all these different groups like Pussy Riot and the rest of them in there trying to foment the overthrow of that government, really trying to push the Russians into confrontation. And again, I'm not a fan of the Russian leadership, but they're not starting it. They're not expanding. They're hanging on by their toenails. Russia wants to start World War III. These are the headlines. CNBC, AP, Ukraine foreign minister ready to fight Russia. Calls on the West for more troops that are landing in Ukraine and Poland with special forces and CIA, Hind helicopters that the Russians gave the Ukrainians now under Western control, and tanks and armor, burning buildings, smoke, cities being invaded that are Russian enclaves, ethnic enclaves. And Lavrov said 3 days ago, on Monday, or on Wednesday, I guess, was it Tuesday, 3 days ago. It's Friday now, time just flies, that if you keep attacking Russian interests, we'll attack you. And what did Putin come out and say? He said, Bloomberg, last night, warns of consequences as Ukraine steps up offensive. Bloomberg, Ukraine steps up offensive. We told you dozens and dozens of times when this all started in the last few months that they'll go in, they'll take over, then they'll start persecuting the Russian-held areas. The Russian areas will declare independence. Then the West will call them terrorists, not freedom fighters. when they just called the Western groups freedom fighters. They will go in with military and attack them, and the Russians will come into the Russian ethnic areas to give them aid, as they pledged to do. And then if NATO keeps pushing, it'll become a theater war. And the Russians have said, if you start using high-tech missiles and weapons against our helicopters and against our armor, we will target NATO bases with mobile missile launchers with ICBMs. I said Russia will act the same as Georgia. Said that a month ago. Now Lavrov said 3 days ago. He said we will act just as we did in Georgia. I watched their press conferences. And here's the deal about the Russians. They actually don't lie that much. They just send the tax police to your house to break your nose if you don't pay. They don't make stuff up. Do you understand that? They didn't make it up with Napoleon or Hitler. They're not going to make it up now. You come up against their borders, they'll attack you. All right, folks, we are back. Thank you so much for joining us. Continuing with the Russia situation. It's very simple. They're openly bringing in U.S. Special Forces, NATO Special Forces into the area. They're moving into Russian ethnic areas that are clearly going to become autonomous and want to join Russia. That's the natural course. Russia will then be drawn into this, and if the West decides to asymmetrically attack the Russians, they will asymmetrically attack it first to test. Then if major armor or aircraft are brought in against Russian forces or against Russian populations in eastern Ukraine, Russia will probably attack those forces with nuclear weapons. That's what Russia says they'll do. There you are. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I'd give it a 10% chance. Maybe 15. But that's a real possibility right now. And that's not just me saying it. Here are the headlines. Russia wants to start World War III. Ukrainian Prime Minister, as they started. Ukraine Foreign Minister ready to fight Russia. They've been calling for attacks the entire time. So that's what's going on here. Here's another one. Ukraine helicopter hit by grenade taking off. A Ukrainian helicopter is crippled by a grenade attack as Kiev warns Moscow is engineering a third world war. You hear that? Putin warns of consequences as Ukraine steps up offensive. You guys cue up Lavrov again, please. Kerry warns Russia of new sanctions. AP. And then they hit him with new sanctions via S&P, downgrading Russia today. Russia proposes scorched earth retaliation economically. Pentagon, Russian spy ship tug operating near U.S. Ships near nuclear submarine base at Kings Bay, Georgia. Those submarines and those Russian intelligence ships guaranteed carry cruise missiles. That's what they're going to use. How traders can prepare for worsening Ukraine crisis. CNBC, yeah, how to make money off World War III. Okay. The image of Mi-8 Russian attack helicopters that the Ukrainians have flying around burning buildings. I mean, this is out of control, and now you're going to have Russian sheep-dipped Ukrainian military are going to be attacking those. And if it doesn't stay a proxy war, all hell is going to break loose. So that's the bottom line. And it's important to realize, folks, America isn't America anymore. America is seized by the military-industrial complex itself, run by predominantly foreign offshore banks, the same ones that got Obamacare passed bipartisanly. You've got a minority of Republican libertarians who are growing, who are sane, who want to fix things, so they're being attacked by the Republican leadership, the Democratic leadership. You've now got Glenn Beck, if you just joined us, and it's not about him attacking me, it's about a sea change. He had the Southern Poverty Law Center, White House, Media Matters talking points for anyone else almost 2 weeks ago, saying sovereign citizen, it's going to get violent. Alex Jones wants violence. Now I'm racist. We played the clip last hour. I want violence. You don't want to be with me. None of that's true. Our affiliates are calling us, multiple ones freaking out, saying, we hear your show. We can't believe he's saying this. We carry him too. But it doesn't matter. They're not worried about the general audience. They want it on record when all hell breaks loose that I'm the reason the Civil War started, not Obama, not Glenn Beck, not the globalist. And they're going to go after all liberty-based groups. He wants to be left standing as the new vestigial leader of what's left of libertarians. And, I just said here in the office earlier on air, I said, he brags he's got all these FBI agents that work for him, former FBI, that, he's got all these people. I've talked to people that worked there years ago about how they watch everything we do, and they're supposed to be us, but then demonize us. And I was told that by high-level people. I mean, repeatedly, and it's not even that big of a deal. I'd be going into Fox Studios, be on another show. They say, Glenn Beck is freaking out, climbing the walls. You can't come on now. And I'd be, that's fine. I'm going over to The View and going over to do, CNN. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but, Glenn Beck and his, quote, people don't want you in here. They're throwing fits. And, they've got pull in the government. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, man, the guy's the government. Glenn Beck is the government. And, I could name names, but I'm not going to name names, folks, okay? And then I was told by someone else, high level, and these are people's names you'd know, okay, about Glenn Beck, and that the FBI is there, a section of it from the Justice Department. I go, but wait, he's going after Van Jones. He's going after Obama. They're like, that's all fake. And the guys are like, Alex, is that really true? And I said, of course it's true. Look into him in the FBI. So they started search engineering. And guess what they found from the blaze? Hiding this in plain view. And again, how do I go from Ukraine to this? Because it's the whole government is just a bunch of special interest, CIA, NSA, FBI, corporate groups building their own private kingdoms. Basically, Glenn Beck is like a private CIA takeover of Clear Channel is basically what's happening. And then no one else can make money at Clear Channel but Glenn Beck. And at Premiere, and no one else gets paid money because all the former executives went over there, and it's all FBI and CIA run, and here they are openly hiding it in plain view. This is from allaccess.com, 10 questions for Buck Sexton. I never even knew who this guy was when I saw him, but I said, that guy is a government agent. The secure look, the satisfied look, these are kind of coward-like guys that think because they're part of the system in information warfare, they're above the law. And I mean, just look at that guy. I mean, that I've seen that look so many times growing up, going to family reunions with people that were CIA and stuff. I mean, Dallas is a CIA command base. That's the reason Glenn Beck moved to Dallas. How do I know all these people? Because I've grown up around this, folks. Now, let's continue. It says, brief career synopsis, CIA, Council on Foreign Relations, theblaze.com, radio network. This is Buck Sexton, host, national security editor. This is from The Blaze bragging about who they're... This is from their bio. This is them telling you this. CIA, Council on Foreign Relations, he heads up the radio network. How did you get into radio, TV, and commentary from the CIA? How did you make that transition? See, I was just saying all this. The crew, I don't think, believe me, they went and looked it up. 6 years as an intelligence analyst. I was weeks away from starting my full MBA, probably headed to Wall Street. They go on, who else helps you run The Blaze? Betsy Morgan, President and Chief Strategy Officer of The Blaze, formerly CEO of the Huffington Post. They are the Justice Department. They are Obama. And I'll just go ahead and we're going to put reports together. Glenn Beck, you want it, buddy? Maybe I'll name names, son. You want it? You're going to get it. You want it? You're going to get it. As I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and I knew you were after me, and I said, leave me alone. What, you think the fact that you're Benedict Arnold going to come out? You were spouting White House talking points 3 days before word for word it came out of Media Matters. You got the memo before they did, bud. We got your ass. You want more? We're going to compile a dossier on all your people now, and we're going to put it out for folks. We're going to realize your little base over there is a CIA, FBI substation. You understand? This is what we're talking about. You want to say I want violent revolution? You want to say I want to lock you up in jail when that's what you want? Without a trial? You want to say I'm a racist? We're going to show this is directly out of the Justice Department what's happening. Right here. Your people hide this stuff in plain, stinking view. I wonder what Anonymous is going to do about this. Anonymous, are you going to let them bring me down? I'm for real. I need the grassroots to come to my aid right now. I can tell the enemy is rolling the Death Star around. It's going to be clear to fire in 5 minutes. What are you going to do? I need you to help me. I'm for real. These people want to bring me down. And if they can bring me down, they can bring you down, they can bring Drudge down, they can bring WorldNet Daily down, they can bring the real liberal media down, the libertarian, Thomas Jefferson media down. You're gonna as if he's not going to get hung out to dry later when they fully take over. If he wasn't always a spook, he was brought in by him in the last 4 years. Roger Ailes was in intelligence to set up Fox News. That's on record. And they broke away from him to start their own operation. And the word is because Roger Ailes is too patriotic and wouldn't work with Obama. Oh, you want all of it? I think I'm going to go ahead and load torpedoes. You know, I am so focused on the New World Order and everything else, but I've got to deal with their attack vessel they got right in front of me. I got so much to do around here, but I can go get all the stuff I've already researched, load it up, and I think I'm going to do it. In fact, now that I've announced it, I have to. I think I'm going to drop everything on your ass. And excuse my French, ladies and gentlemen. You want it, little boy who thinks he's so tough and sends threatening letters to everybody? Prepare. You think a bunch of spooks at your operation scare me? You think as you surround yourself with a bunch of government people, you're safe from the truth? I don't work for the CIA or the FBI. I work for my conscience. Now, that's the problem with our country, is you've got all these people working in government who want to go take over divisions of the economy and run their own operations. And they don't like the fact that everybody knows I'm for real, who's got a gut, and who's got instincts and common sense and a track record, and they want to destroy me. With the false flag that's coming very soon, that's going to be blaming the Liberty Movement to kill the Tea Party. Well, I'm not going to sell out and mediate what I'm saying. I'm not going to back off. I want to end abortion. I want to end open borders. I want to end the attack on the Second Amendment. I want liberty. That's what I want. Not helicopters, not jets, not lounging around in couches with FBI agents all day. I'm done. But here they are, folks, all of them in your face, a nest of globalists spouting Obama lines. So there you go. A bunch of guys that think they can play you and your family. A bunch of guys that think they can create some cult leader that you're going to follow so they can control and lead the liberty movement right into the Judas goat chutes. You know what a Judas goat is? It's a goat train that doesn't get slaughtered every year, that is the leader of the goats, the leader of the sheep, that leads them into the slaughter. I am not a Judas goat. So there you go. I mean, the Huffington Post runs... I mean, and you look into this woman. I mean, my God, does he have to have Obama as his co-host or something for you to figure this out? And again, if you're an affiliate or a new listener, I don't infight. I don't talk about anybody in the so-called libertarian or conservative media. But when they're lying about me, doing things like this, trying to destroy me, the meme needs to go out with people like Glenn Beck, who needs Obama. And why does he have so many Obama people working for him and so many Justice Department people working for him? And why is he spouting Justice Department lines and propaganda? Now, Hal Turner was an FBI asset, and I told you it was. And Anonymous got into his email, and you know what happened to him. I'm going to say a prayer. God, I recognize that this is a key juncture point that the enemy realizes that we're growing exponentially and going to come after us with their operatives. Please, I've been a humble servant and tried to be the best I can. And please protect us, and please help us expose the enemies within, foreign and domestic. And please allow me to continue on in my work so that I can do a better job and continue to wake others up. Or if it is your will that they destroy me, please let it be an edifying message to all so that we can learn from it and in the end defeat these enemies within, these Benedict Arnolds. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, amen. And I just ask you all to pray for this broadcast and to pray that all be revealed and that all the veils be torn back from the would-be religious cult leader that is the CIA frontman, the FBI frontman, the Justice Department Obama frontman that is Glenn Beck. And I just pray that that happen, and if it's God's will, it will. He likes to invoke God all day. When I invoke God, I do it very humbly in God's presence. And I pray that all of you will pray with me that justice be brought against MSNBC, Obama, Eric Holder, Glenn Beck, and the rest of these people. He's now using the race card. Edits, Bundy praised black folks and Hispanics and said they're good, hardworking people that pay their taxes and that it's a new form of slavery. You have the full video on InfoWars, and they knew this was all coming out, and they put this out. Now they claim that we were involved, that we're racist, and that we want violent overthrow of America so that when the staged attack comes, we'll be blamed. I am not going to be part of this, and Joseph Farah is going to be joining us to talk about the real attacks on the media and the government documents that have come out, and I'm going to cover that in the next segment. Very briefly, I've done almost 2 hours here and have not plugged any sponsors or anything like other talk show hosts do every segment. We're funded by you. I need you to buy the books, the videos, the T-shirts, the high-quality supplements at InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. That's how we fund our operation so we can continue on and expand the face of the globalists. The best water filters at the best price. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, and basically see it as a donation. You just get a high-quality product at great prices. Or 888-253-3139. But most importantly, pray for us. Because I don't get scared seeing all this, but I get scared that I haven't done enough, I haven't been pure enough, I haven't worked hard enough while the sun still shined, and I think the sun's starting to set on everything, and I just am really upset about what's coming. But in the end, the wicked will be punished and will be judged, and my conscience is clean. I know my heart's right with God. So I'm ready to take my licks. This is bigger than Glenn Beck. The fact that they're doing this shows they're getting ready to move against us. So pray for us. We'll be right back. I've always told you when the globalists get ready to drop the hammer here domestically, their operatives in the liberty movement are going to activate and show who they are and say, do what the government says, go along with the takeover. This will be extremely destructive. All the things Beck's been doing, if you look at the comments on his websites, they're like 90+% negative. People are deserting him in droves. But it's just like MSNBC. They don't care if it kills their ratings. It's a mission. They've been ordered to do it. So he's, Bundy's a racist, a horrible person out of context. Alex Jones is a racist. Alex Jones wants violence. It doesn't matter if it's not true. They have to do it. And the fact that he would do it at this point means that they intend to drop the hammer on the liberty movement very, very soon. And if we go along with this and are cowards and change what we're saying so they'll be nice to us, they win. They know we've got the power. They want to intimidate us. Just because they've got FBI or CIA in front of their name, I happen to know a lot of people in the government that are liberty lovers and don't like what's happening. And so it doesn't matter, but you're not magic and have magic powers. It's like at Bilderberg covering Hillary and Obama there in 2008 in my film, The Obama Deception. The prostitute media wouldn't cover it. The drive-by media wouldn't cover it. The lapdog media wouldn't cover it. We were calling them saying they're here, they're here. Secret Service would like take MP5s out and aim them at us. They'd have State Department security, Marines flipping us off and threatening us. And they were doing it under orders. Later, I had some of them apologize to me. But it was just like little kids talking in their sleeve. And, I can wear a black suit and a black tie if I want to. I mean, just because you've got some alphabet agency in front of your name, it's like saying you work for Coca-Cola. I mean, there are so many CIA people and defense intelligence people in Dallas, it'll make your head spin. I grew up there. And it's just so disgusting to know every move these people are going to make and then to see them make the move. But the reason they make moves that look stupid if you're awake is they're targeting a dumbed-down public. They're counting on you not being informed. Why would they say there's no bullets being bought or armored vehicles? Why would they say there's not a police state being set up when it is? Why would they say there's no drones? Why would they say there's no $5,000 fee on small businesses on each employee if you don't get Obamacare or cut them down to 30 hours or less? And that's in the law. It's happening. Why do they say it's not true? Because they think you're that dumb. So they tell you, I want to kill cops. They'll probably take that out and play that clip. They tell you Alex Jones wants war. Alex Jones wants civil war. When I say every day, I don't want civil war, it turns into he wants civil war. We'll play the clip then where I want civil war. I'm so tired of the betrayal and the treason. I'm so tired of the dishonor. I want to think more of people. I want to believe that everything I was told about people wasn't true, even though it's been proven to be right. There's no FEMA camps. Ron Paul has a thing called a money bomb to blow up the government. He said that when the first, it's just like, money bomb's been going on for 6 months back when he said that 6, 7 years ago. The Army needs to be used against these people. That was the Southern Poverty Law Center Media Matters line then. And I kept saying, these are government lines. These are hardcore inside lines first, not later. He doesn't repeat the lines later. He progenerates. He gives birth. He coins them. He gets the memo first, folks. And I say he works for Obama. It's above that. And then I think about, how did I get into such a hardcore game? How am I some guy from Dallas, Texas, in the middle of this, ladies and gentlemen? There's no secret room telling me what to do. I don't have any advisors. I'm just here, real, going up against these people. That's why I need your prayers. Because these are wicked, wicked people, folks. And I can tell you, they're moving against America, not just me, right now. Joseph Farah, who was on the White House enemies list by 1993 and targeted. In fact, you guys pull me the document. I know we printed it the other day. I want to show that on air. I'll just show the news articles and print me all the articles about from Breitbart and the rest of it about targeting the media that ties into that. But pull me the document right now. I need it as soon as Farah comes on. Okay, it's linked in the Breitbart article. This is really, again, a Rosetta Stone document because it says, we will tell the controlled media to call everyone that disagrees with us conspiracy theorist. This is how we'll shut down information and stop the public from learning what we're doing. It's a 300-page document, only, I think, 29, 30 pages, counting the cover sheet came out. And it's everything you see MSNBC do, you see Media Matters do. People say, why do you give Media Matters attention? They don't have much traffic. It is the White House. It's Obama. So when they talk, it's the Democratic Party and the Clintons. And it's everything they do and say now from that original memo, 1993, 1994. There's another one. And so, you know, this is people actually fighting the tyranny versus those that pose as liberty lovers. And I don't usually, you know, Farah agreed to come on today on the phone to talk about this. He's in studio next Monday. He's here separately shooting film. By the way, I told the folks making the film if they want to use our new studio, it's got all the maps on the wall and stuff. We haven't shown it yet. If they want to use that studio in there before he's on with us, they're welcome to it. And then they said, yes, they want to use it. So maybe have Nico call them. Call the filmmakers because I want to bug Farah and have them use that. And I've been to Farah's offices in Virginia. It's not a government operation. It's real journalists in there doing real research, asking me real questions. But then you look at other operations, you can tell when they're basically government operations and when they're spouting White House propaganda. And I just don't know why it didn't ever fully click until today, looking at all the pieces, that it was worse than I thought. It's beyond being an opportunist when we speak about Becky Poo. I'm being set up. We're all being set up. They're getting ready to drop the hammer. The guns, your kids, they're going to take everything. And he wants to survive that, so he's joined with Sauron. We must join with Sauron. Well, no, I don't think we're going to be doing that. And it'll all come out in the wash. If good men do the right thing, good women do the right thing, evil will not triumph. I know that. And we're given providence. We're given discernment to be able to defeat the enemy. No weapon formed against us will prosper unless it's part of God's plan. And so God's in control. I'm not worried about it. It's just very sickening to see all of this going on. But the headline in Breitbart was 3 years before Drudge changed the internet media landscape. You know, White House was worried about internet was basically the headline. I need that one too. So continuing, We are going to read this headline out of the Statesman Journal that is a nightmare. Supreme Court, state can immunize children in its custody. So now, when they CPS your kids, they're not just going to put them on 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 psychotropics. They're now going to shoot them up with the 100+ shots that government wants your kids to have. And when they have convulsions and stuff, it'll be no big deal. They'll just blame the parents. The Department of Human Services can order children in its custody to immunize, even if the child is temporarily in custody, and even the parents object to immunizations on principle, according to an Oregon Supreme Court ruling issued Thursday. Yeah, what's MSNBC say? Your kids belong to the state. That is an unbelievable, off-the-charts headline, ladies and gentlemen. And so we're going to be breaking all of that down. And we're going to be dovetailing the attempt to censor the internet and free speech back in 1993-94 against the Western Journalism Center targeted by the White House, and how they understand the real media operates versus the fake media, with the attempts to shut down the internet freedom as we know it today. So a 30-minute interview with Joseph Farah straight ahead, then he's in studio for a full hour next week. I want to talk about the open discussion of World War III in Ukraine, as the street battles now turn into full-on combat battles with tanks and helicopters with Joseph Farah. We're going to also, after he leaves us at the bottom of the hour, open the phones up. But I cannot build up our next guest enough, ladies and gentlemen. He really is the progenitor of what you can call the true alternative media that has become the new dominant media by all metrics. MSNBC has a 500,000 viewers average show. We have conservatively 3 million. That just gives you an example. We have millions of visitors a day. WorldNet Daily has millions of visitors a day. Drudge has 15 million a day. But they call themselves the authority at MSNBC and CNN when their audiences go down by about a quarter every year. How are they going to counter us? Well, here is the New York Times. FCC and Shift backs fast lanes for web traffic. That means the end of net neutrality, shutting down the old web, only letting you get establishment news. That's internet too. AP, U.S. proposes pay for priority internet standards. What did the Boston Herald come out yesterday and say? That there's a total takeover with this new office in the federal government to, quote, look for hate crimes in media. They called it chilling and shocking. AFP, goodbye net neutrality. FCC's new internet rules create incentives for discrimination. AFP, proposed U.S. rules leave open internet fast lanes. See, that's how they're spinning it. Okay, now, this attack on free speech is happening because the old dinosaur media, the state-run media, is in free fall. But you have a perfect storm of state-run media and government wanting to control information. The Pentagon announced last year that because of the Drudge Report and other alternative media, they can't lie anymore. Remember that press conference by the Undersecretary of the Defense? We played it here on air. Headline was, Pentagon says they can't lie anymore because of Drudge. Very important article. It was a cover article in our magazine. Now, only got him till the bottom of the hour, maybe a little bit longer, but I wanted to build up the backdrop of Chinese-style net censorship that's now being announced. They're coming. The crooks that have taken over, the special interest, and their minions, the socialist, progressive social engineers, who will carry out any form of evil because they want control of our lives. They're announcing in Oregon they'll inoculate your kids without permission today. Their Supreme Court just ruled that. It's all happening. And you're going to have a lot of conservatives and libertarians that get scared by this now when they try to use Homeland Security against the Liberty Movement, as they're now announcing, will join with the system. Not Joseph Farah. 1995 was also on a 93 memo. Clinton administration feared Internet's ability to democratize news 3 years before Drudge bombshell. That's an article out of Breitbart. Released Clinton files on media enemies, WND.com. Learn what Hillary meant by vast right-wing conspiracy. Let's move on. I already covered this days ago, so I'm going to paraphrase it, but go read the memo. It says, the new media is here. We've got to control info. We can't let the public have access, these are quotes, to free information. We've got to have the media call anyone that questions us conspiracy theorist, and any media that's not the Washington Post or New York Times is a conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory, Monica Lewinsky. Conspiracy theory that they shipped guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. All confirmed. Conspiracy theory they stood down in Benghazi. Confirmed. And who is enemy number one in here? Joseph Farah, Western Journalism Center. They founded WorldNet Daily that year, 1995-96. And they go back to talking about him in 93 and how they were exposing the Vince Foster thing and other things and how they had to be targeted. So this shows the power of the real media. Now, what must they be doing? And he'll be in studio with us next week to talk more about this because he's coming to town for filmmaking in a separate film. But Joseph Farah, who literally has gone through everything, the audits, the harassment, the death threats, the drone over his house in the Virginia countryside, the all sorts of dirty tricks, that's how you know somebody's real. And I'm not lionizing him, just understand he's real. And he said before, he said, oh, vote for, anybody but McCain or Obama, none of the above. He wrote a best-selling book about it. He said, I was wrong during the election. He said, if Obama gets in, they're coming after everyone. Now they're announcing, if you're a libertarian, you're a terrorist. If you're a veteran, you're a terrorist. And they've got mainline conservatives agreeing with it now because they've been told the hammer's dropping. You better get with the right side. If we stand against them, they implode. I'm going to give you the floor here, so don't pause or I'll perseverate. Joseph Farah, WND.com. We've got to all stick together or hang separate. As you've been saying, as I've been saying, what the controlled left is good at. But when people fully flip to Benedict Arnold, we have no other choice but defend ourselves like I did last hour, which I hated doing, folks. It's really sad to see this, and I'm not going to get into it with you, but break down what these memos mean, how big a deal it is, and where we're going from here and what your gut tells you, Joseph Farah.
Well, I hate to interrupt you, Alex, because I never got a build-up like that from anybody, so I appreciate it very much. But, one of the interesting things about this report, this communication stream of conspiracy commerce that you were referencing, it illustrates how, you've outlined the problem we're facing right now beautifully. I mean, they are coming after us. They are intending to dismantle the communications systems that we've used so effectively over the years. But the interesting thing is that going back into the Clinton administration days and this report that you referenced, they were doing this, Alex, before there was a Drudge, before there was a WorldNet Daily, before there was InfoWars. We were working in newsletters back then, okay? Printed newsletters. And we had the Clinton administration so upset and so worried because the Internet had just been invented. Maybe there were 1 million people total around the world on the Internet back then, and they were already panicked. Hillary Clinton was already talking about the fact that, oh my gosh, there are no gatekeepers. That's the term she used. There are no gatekeepers on the Internet, and that's what they want. Okay, that's who the big media are.
And by the way, just to interrupt, if you're a new listener, this is not our opinion or a conspiracy theory like Hillary puts in your mind, just a denial button people can push. They release this on the Clinton official presidential library website.
Yeah, by the way, they released only part of it. I'm on my desk as I'm talking to you right now. I have a 331-page report.
Wait a minute, you got the secret one? They only released 30 pages.
Oh yeah, no, I have the whole thing. In fact, we're trying to figure out how to republish it. The problem with that is there are so many news articles and things like that in this report. We got to go and get reprint permission.
I think it's fair use because it's a government document and it's attacking free speech.
Yeah, tell my lawyers.
Give it to me. I'll publish it right now.
Alex, you know how it is. I mean,
yeah.
The laws are there to protect some people, not all the people. And, if I do something and you do something that Media Matters does, suddenly there's a new standard.
Well, yeah, they show exhibits of news articles they want shut down. The answer is black out 90% of each news article and then release it. That should satisfy the lawyers.
Exactly. So, the point I'm trying to make here is that they knew what the Internet meant for them. And
they were conspiring like the Soviet Union to kill it in its crib.
That's right. To give you another illustration, we founded WorldNet Daily in 1997, May of 1997. At that time, MSNBC.com was far and away the biggest website of any kind in the world. Okay, and I remember looking at that, and I remember saying to myself and my wife, I didn't tell anybody publicly, but I said, we're gonna pass those guys someday. And within a couple of years, if that, MSNBC imploded, and rightfully so because of the direction they took, which was, forget about reporting the news. Let's indoctrinate the public into a statist mentality, virtually a Stalinist mentality, if you want to, get more specific here, and look at the ratings. They had, this is a combination of Microsoft and NBC, two gigantic, multinational corporations, and look what they've done. They start with the #1 website in the world, and look at where they've gone now. They're down hundreds and hundreds of positions over that time. So, what you're saying is exactly right, but I want people to understand that, this has been going on for a long time. And by the way, when we first started WND, I realized, oh my gosh, these people are coming after us, right? But we're still here. What is it? 17 years.
But
later.
Do you agree now that the ultimate counterattack, like we're the Battle of the Bulge, we're the Allies, and the Nazis are about to launch their main assault?
Oh yeah. We haven't seen anything like this before. I mean, the forces are converging on us in such a symmetrical and pattern. They've been planning this, and we've fought them back. There's been setbacks in their plans over the years, but they never give up. That's the thing about the left. The Stalinist left is they're in this for the long haul, and you might win a battle here and there, but they just keep coming, and that's what we got to be prepared for all the time. We got to continue that way too. We have to unite. Harry Reid said something I thought with regard to this Bundy situation in Las Vegas that was very revealing yesterday. I don't know if you caught it. He said, what we need to go up against this little, rancher in Nevada is we need a united front. You know that terminology, right, Alex?
Absolutely. They're unified in their will to take over this country. That's why I've tried to be unified as well. But what do you do when our supposed own allies turn against us? Yeah, but I'd like all your listeners to do right now is go Google the term United Front and see what that means. It's communist. Those are code words. Okay, he's telling the goose-stepping, troops out there that this is a battle that we have to win against Cliven Bundy. And the key was that New York Times article where they labeled him unfairly, unjustly as a racist, took his words out of context, because that's how they get us. Okay, that's how they make sure Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck are not going to support Cliven Bundy. That's right. They're not going to oppose it when they steamroll over liberty proponents like Cliven Bundy. And that's how all hell breaks loose. And by the way, I want to just back you up. Let's put up the definition of the United Front. That's a V.I. Lenin coined term used by the Bolsheviks in 1917, 1918. We'll put it back on screen for TV viewers. Yeah, it's not a coincidence. He didn't pull that term out of thin air. That has to be ingrained in you. I used to be one of them. I used to be, young kid, but a commie. I knew all of this terminology. I knew what this was about. And, it helps to have that kind of historical perspective when we look at what's going on today. Meanwhile, it's a bunch of rich insiders using communism as a way to enslave us while they exempt themselves from all the taxes. But people are pointing out how Harry Reid's getting so rich off of all the different things he's running. And so what you're saying is a lot of these so-called conservatives get intimidated by what they see happening, and then they let the left dictate things to them. I think that's part of it. But also, I think it's the fact that they know that there's going to be staged events in this country, like Oklahoma City, that are going to be blamed on the liberty movement. And we just have to be ready for that. I mean, these people are not going to stop. We have to expose Joseph Farah just how evil they are so that when they do stuff, people understand that this is a criminal group. And I was ignorant until just the last 7-8 years myself. I thought it was more of a corruption and a corporate New World Order. And the rest of it. But now I really realize the left, socialist, communist, are the core of the political ideology that dominates this. And there may be big banks and things funding it because they'll politically take over. But at the end of the day, my enemy really is the grassroots collectivist that hates my guts.
Yeah, and don't, you're still absolutely right about the New World Order and all those things as well. That's a reality, and ultimately that's their goal. But they try to put it in terms that appeal to the average person. So they attack racism. Do you think they really care about that Cliven Bundy's a racist? I mean, would it be news if he were? No, the point is to not smear Cliven Bundy. They really care about him. What they care about are the people who might line up in support of him. They want to make sure that Rand Paul has to think twice about standing up for Cliven Bundy, that Glenn Beck has to do that Sean Hannity. That's what worries them when Alex Jones and Farah and Drudge and all these people out there who have some platform actually say, wait a minute, why are you mobilizing this military campaign against this rancher from Nevada? And so what they do is, if there's 1 degree of separation between you and Cliven Bundy, Sunday, you're on the defensive about standing up and saying, hey, what are you guys doing with 200 armed troops in the middle of nowhere?
Well, let's expand on that. We have the full video at Infowars.com. Unedited video shows Bundy making pro-black, pro-Mexican comments and basically saying what I knew he was going to say when I called him yesterday, that no, they left one form of slavery for another. But he was saying it sarcastically to get people to talk about it because he's a straight shooter, and then they spin the whole deal, and again, as if the only thing that matters, even if he was a, quote, racist, they want to paint all property rights or anybody standing up against Tiananmen Square-style oppression as a racist. Why don't we just say the tank man from Tiananmen Square? Just say, I heard he was a racist, so let's run him over with a tank.
Exactly. That is, in essence, what they are saying. A perfect analogy. And we have to realize, wait a minute, we're being manipulated here. But they're trying to take the focus off of what the government is doing to this guy as if they were going after him because he was a racist. I mean, come on. But so what they want to do is they want to plant this seed of doubt. Wait a minute, should I really be getting involved with this? That's what Harry Reid wants.
They want to set the Overton window. They want to set the parameters of debate where only what MSNBC says or CNN says with White House talking points is the acceptable political discussion. They want to demonize him ahead of going after him and then stamp everyone else with the Cliven Bundy seal when they go after the next person. The reason it's such a big deal, though, these 95 Clinton memos, is that it shows the authoritarian nature of how they wanted to shut you guys down and not let you be known, that they were so threatened by not controlling everything. I mean, this sounds like something the Soviets would come up with.
Yeah, it really was, and it continues today. The only difference is that from back then, we got this paper trail, we don't have the paper trail yet. That's what they're trying to hide, for instance, with the abuse of the IRS, which is something really extraordinary now. And it's funny to me because at this point, the media sort of backed off this thing, even though there's been this email chain that's been leaked out in the congressional investigation, which virtually is the paper trail that shows, wait a minute, this wasn't just some rogue agents, in Cincinnati who were doing this. This was coming from the top. And we've got more on that on WND today. But, sometimes you have to bring this home, personalize it a little bit. You know who Gary Aldrich is?
Yes.
Okay, you know what? He's head of the Patrick Henry Center, been around for a long time. He's a former FBI agent in the White House.
He's the guy that saw them with crack pipes and Mao and Lenin on the Christmas tree. I've interviewed him. That's right. And he's got the Patrick Henry Center for Individual Freedom, been operating for like 15 years or something. They took his tax-exempt status away. And listen to the rationale here that the IRS says this is the reason. Repeated statements supporting or opposing various candidates by
expressing its opinion of the respective candidate's character and qualifications. Now, here's a 501c3 organization. By the way, the specifics they cite was a 2004 column by Gary Aldrich that was unflattering toward John Kerry, and another one, a fundraising letter where he criticized Hillary in 2005.
Which, for those that don't know, folks, with this tax exemption, they buy off speech, saying you can't ever have a view. You can't have a anti-abortion group that criticizes a pro-abortion politician. That's asinine. And so the answer is people need to support liberty organizations. We don't take your money at gunpoint like MSNBC with stimulus money or NPR. We don't take it like Obama doesn't use it against you. We need you to buy our books, our videos, our products to literally fund us while we're under hellish attack. It really comes down to that, folks. We are the tip of the spear. WorldNet Daily, InfoWars, Drudge. Let's list some other people. Patrick Henry Center. Who are some of the others people should support, Joseph?
Well, the Western Journalism Center, which I found that, way back before WND is still around under new leadership. Floyd Brown, who, by the way, you'll find his fingerprints all over this communication stream of conspiracy commerce, too, because of the things he was doing back then. And what was it? What were we doing back then? We were trying to find out the truth about the corruption in federal government and the Clinton administration. That was our sin. That was what, put us in the spotlight. That's what put us under the microscope.
You'd run some of the biggest newspapers in the country, and how dare you try to bring back old-fashioned journalism?
Exactly.
No, they say in there, oh my gosh, he's investigating Vince Foster. They should be an FBI investigation of this memo. It looks like a criminal racketeering meeting.
The federal government itself conducted 3 investigations of Vincent Foster as a result of what we had raised. Now, I don't think they ever got to the bottom of it, but the point is, if there wasn't anything worth investigating, why did they have 3 separate investigations of his death? So, it's absolutely crazy. History is repeating itself right now. The advantage to being as old as I am is there's nothing new under the sun. We just keep seeing the same tactics wheeled out time and time again.
I know you got to go, but I want to do 3 minutes on the other side because I've got one big question for you, and I'm going to ask it now, Joseph Farah. We're going to go to break, and I want you to come back and answer it.
Sure.
Myself, you, people that have been in this a long time, you longer than I, we get so used to the evil, we almost become acclimated, staring into the abyss, as Nietzsche said. The danger is not realizing how epic what you've done is or what Drudge has done, how epic what InfoWars has done, and that we really are the only ones standing up against this pure evil. This is David against Goliath, and people need to energize us.
For a long time.
Alex Jones here, back live. A few more minutes with our guests, and I'm going to give the number out and take your calls on the Russia situation,
Go tell that long
which is off the charts. I'll be back this Sunday, Lord willing, 4 to 6 p.m. live with the Sunday transmission. But there's a clip from Conan the Barbarian written by Oliver Stone. The second one's really cheesy. The first one's really good. Where Thulsa of Doom was going around doing all these bad things, and the local king, played by Max von Sydow, calls in Conan, and he says, there comes a time in your life you don't care about money, you don't care about power anymore. All you care about is justice and the future of your children. Here's everything I've got. Just go kill Thulsa Doom. And my whole life, I didn't like bullies. I'm not some hero, folks. But, I mean, I grew up going to public school and watched, by 6th grade, kids 3 years older than I was beating up kids, and I'd stand up for them, and I got beat up a lot. But then I learned how to fight back, and just from, just sheer attrition. And, I mean, I take it personal they say my kids belong to them on MSNBC. And they say they're coming with forced inoculations in the news today. I take it personal they're setting up world government. I take it personal they want to teach kids 2 + 2 = 5. That's evil. That's all I want. I'd do anything to not have the mainline neocons attack me. I'd do anything to not have the MSNBC people be so evil and lie to their viewers. And Al Sharpton, the FBI operative. But notice, there's good FBI guys exposing evil. There's bad ones. It's all good and bad, good and evil. And Joseph Farah, in the final equation, I was talking to you in the break, and I realized this lately. The problem with Ron Paul, the problem with WorldNet Daily, Matt Drudge, InfoWars, WorldNet Daily, any of us is, we're not narcissists. We really do want to fight the evil. We're not perfect, but we really want justice in the future. That's what matters. We're really creeped out and freaked out by it. I know you are. I've met you in person. But then we never point out how big we are or how epic it is or that we are literally up against this evil takeover. I get chills. I can't believe I'm in this position. My show's unlistenable half the time. I mean, literally, it's like, why me? And I know you probably, do you ever think that? But at the same time, we just got to be honest with listeners and say, listen, we're in the ring, ladies and gentlemen, with some evil. You better financially support us and spread the word about us, because as Jim Garrison said in the JFK investigation, why was he still alive when 200 were killed? He said, because I stay in the spotlight. What is your comment on that? And I mean, how epic this is. I mean, when I'm saying these things to you, I want the audience to know how real this is. Do you disagree with what I'm saying, or are you getting chills like I am?
I'm getting chills. I'm getting chills. And here, look, I don't want to talk about, my character. But here's what my motivations are the same as yours. Do I want to get rich and get out and live in a castle and isolate myself as the world goes down the tubes? No, I've had that opportunity, Alex. I've had that opportunity and said no to it. What I want to do is I want to save this country. I want to promote liberty. I want to get us back to the principles that this country was founded upon. That's real. That's what I want to do. And, and I guess I'll never be able to retire. I guess I'll never be able to sit back and just, take it easy and enjoy the fruits of all the hard labor that I've put in. I'm not whining here. I'm telling you, and I know that you share these motivations with me. You can tell who does and who doesn't very easily. I won't go into the criteria you use. But, look, why do I come on the air and stand up for Gary Aldrich, who right now, it looks to me like conservatives out there are running as far away from this guy because he lost his tax exempt.
Or Dinesh D'Souza, you stood. None of them stand up for D'Souza.
It's the same thing. They want to pick us off one at a time, Alex. That's the way they operate. That's the way the Stalinist left operates. That's why they use the IRS to go after people, the most feared agency, the Gestapo.
Everyone should stand up and say, try to audit me, instead of like we're gazelles and a lion just grabbed Gary Aldrich, so we just let him eat him.
Right. I mean, I've known Gary Aldrich a long time. He's not like a buddy I go out to dinner with, but when I see him under attack, I say, well, that could just as easily be me. And that could just as easily be, Alex Jones or Matt Drudge. Or if they want to get you, they can get you. And that's what they know, and that we need to understand. And what we want to do is we want to level the playing field. They talk about equality. That's what we want. We want to be treated the same, equally, not to have different standards for left-wingers and right-wingers.
And if we collapse in fear now, which you've not done and others haven't done, they get everybody. Don't folks get, when you give in to evil and bullies and tyrants, then they get everyone? You get prosperity by standing against them. A nation of sheep will be ruled by wolves. Thomas Jefferson, I can't wait to have you in studio next week. Joseph Farah, final mini question. I know you got another meeting to go to. What does your gut tell you? My gut tells me, and also the political evidence shows, if they were scared of you 20 years ago, and now look what we've done, it's a battle. We're holding them back on so many fronts. We're getting ready to beat them, not by tyranny, but by sheer cultural truth. We have our own cultural revolution against their Maoist one. They know we're beating them. That's why they're coming in with the Empire Strikes Back endgame. So we've got to have maximum courage, maximum honor, and let the audience know, like the Alamo falling, that defeat became the big victory for Texas. Just like a lot of defeats for George Washington became victories because they persevered. We've got to have folks ready to know that we're in the game big time, and we're starting to win. That's why they're doing this. Do you agree with that statement? Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. And, Alex, for a long time, when I started WorldNet, years, I thought to myself, I wonder why nobody else is doing this.
I wonder why nobody else has seen, hey, we're having a modest degree of success here. Why isn't anybody joining the fray? Finally, after, many years, there have been InfoWars and the Breitbarts and the Daily Callers, Glenn Beck, now we have some other folks out there joining us, and we got to make sure that we don't split hairs with them. The other side wants to have a united front. Where's our united front?
I totally agree. We talk about this every time on the phone or on air, and Savage is doing that. Good for him. I mean, the attacks, and I'm not going to bring it up, it's just Beck saying that, quote, I want a violent revolution and a civil war when I say the opposite, that I'm a racist covering up for Bundy. Maybe you're right. Maybe he's just doing it out of fear, but it doesn't matter. I'm being thrown under the bus here, and it's very creepy, and I'm just glad that you're an honorable person, Joseph Farah. Look forward to seeing you next week, and I'm glad you're not a coward.
All right, man. God bless.
Thank you. There goes Joseph Farah of WND.com. We already had him coming on about these Clinton files, target him, destroy him, bring him down. And, it's come out a few years ago that I'm on the enemies list. And, man, they've done stuff to me I'm not even going to get into. It's just like, you too, Beck. It's like Caesar with Brutus. You too? You too? I mean, I don't deserve this. And I expect it from Rachel Maddow, And I'm sick of it. I mean, these people are evil. Evil, evil. We cannot compromise with them. We cannot negotiate with them because it's all done in bad faith. And the mainline liberals out there are good people. I'm not saying go follow George Bush and Dick Cheney. I'm saying the Democratic Party right now with Obama is taking over everything and trying to end the Republican Party. If the Democratic Party was being extincted, I would be against it. We need 3 parties, 4 parties, not one. If Bush would have had his Justice Department arrest Michael Moore, even though I don't like Moore, who's anti-gun, I would have run around like a chicken with my head cut off, like I did with Dinesh D'Souza. When the left is persecuted, I stand up against it. Because I'm not about left and right, folks. I'm about Constitution, common sense. And because I'm real organically, and the system knows I'm real, they got everything tapped, they are scared of me. Look, man, I'm just scared you guys are going to win and destroy everything. I don't want to fight with the New World Order. I've got to fight you, though, because I cannot join with evil. I physically can't do it. I physically, when somebody's choking, I go help them. We got a report we're going to go into overdrive and play that hadn't even aired on the nightly news yet, where John Bound saw a naked guy running down the road on his Prozac or whatever and helped him. People thought that was weird. They tried to help him. He saw a lady's car on fire. She was standing right next to it. He pulled over and said, get away from your car. People called him a control freak. It's the new virtues caring about nobody. Well, I don't want to live in a family like that. I don't want to be around people like that. I don't understand all this. I don't understand dishonorable people. I saw a video in New York with a bunch of black folks on a bus. I meant to do a piece on it. My buddy Pat sent it to me. It's on my phone, guys. I want you to get it. And this thug is starting to harass 2 old black people on canes, a man and his wife in suits and nice dressed on the bus. And this big guy is like threatening him for no reason. And then a little black guy gets up, and he's about 2/3 the guy's side. It looks like he's about 45 years old, and beats up this young thug. As soon as he pushes the old man, this guy gets up and goes up and beats him up. And I just love that video. Not the beating up part, but how just the good guy absolutely stomps that thug's butt into the ground. And that's the spirit that's going to save our society. Because if I see somebody push an old man for no reason, I'm going to stomp their head in the ground. And when I'm in the right, nobody can, it's very hard to beat me. And it's the same thing for you out there who are good. You see somebody, I don't want to get in a fight, but I see somebody starting to beat up an old man or an old lady. Every punch I throw is going to knock your teeth out and break your nose. Because I'm in the right. The few fights I wasn't 100% in the right, I couldn't even fight. And got my butt kicked. But every time I was in the right, I was unstoppable. And I'm not going to get into stories, but it's pretty off the chart. And that's what I'm telling you, folks, what the founder of the Texas Rangers said. No man No man who's wrong can stand up against a man who's in the right who keeps on a-coming. And I'm going to keep on a-coming to the end. I'm not going to stop, ever. You've got my commitment. Ever. I am never backing down. I am committed. I cannot stop. I'm going into this thing. No matter what happens to my family, no matter what happens to me, no matter what happens, I'm never selling out. I'm never giving in. I'm never backing down. Because these people we're facing are the ultimate evil. That's what it comes down to. The big, epic battle is here, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I'll say it, as a listener of this broadcast that spreads the word, that's supportive, that's involved, we influence Congress. That's all over the news. They're totally freaked out. They call it the Alex Jonesification. They're like, oh, you're discredited if you're with him. Because they know, folks, it's a black arrow, what's on this show, to the New World Order, to smog. The spirit of this broadcast and what we do here, not the fearlessness, but a desire to engage the enemy, a desire to never back down. And it's a train wreck a lot of days, folks, but it's real. The enemy knows it's real. The spirit of this transmission, if duplicated, if transferred like fire, will burn down the New World Order and restore the Republic. We've got John Bound's report actually coming up in the next segment with the naked guy running down the road. We'll premiere it here in Austin. It turned out he was on meds. You go off your serotonin reuptake inhibitors is what you do. Luckily, he just ran around naked. He didn't, hurt anybody. I haven't seen this video. I saw it raw. I hope he's blurred this out. Oh, okay, all right. It's done tastefully. Okay, good, because he was running around, was flapping around. Anyways, the whole point is that I heard what Farrah said, man. I want to see Spain. I want to see Greece. I want to see Portugal. I want to see Italy. I want to see Bora Bora. I want to go to Hawaii. I mean, I just want to spend time with my kids. I just like, but all I do is fight these people, and I'm exhausted a lot of times, so I'm not even that good at it. I'm like in the arena constantly, ladies and gentlemen. I'm like stumbling around. And just more gladiators just keep coming out of the pit. And, I mean, I don't know. All I know is that they don't like what we're doing. I mean, if you've studied history or even what they say, these globalists are bad. These globalists are evil. I said I'd take calls, but I won't. I'm out of time. It's so creepy to be targeted by the White House. The average person's scared of what their neighbor thinks of them. Every once in a while, I'll be in a restaurant or walking down the street or in a store, and some socialist, globalist come over and go, Alex Jones, you're a kook and idiot, and I hate you. I like to kick your butt, or black helicopters, kook, man, or boo, boo. They'll come over to my table. That's happened a few times. Is that some liberal thing they do? They'll go, boo, 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 shame on you. And it just means nothing to me. I was over to Buddy's once at his local community pool hot tub, and these trendies come over and they go, Alex Jones, I think you're a disgrace and a kook. And they all started going, It was a couple months ago. Weldon was there. He was over there with me. And we had a few beers, and I just looked at him, and I just kept talking to him, and they laughed, because my buddies laughed, because it meant nothing to me. Those guys thought them laughing at me would upset me. Laughing at me when the globalists run child kidnapping rings where they make snuff films of little kids. I'm fighting people that kidnap little kids and make snuff films. You think some trendy who thinks all day how they dress and how they look and cares what people think of them, you think I'm scared of you? You think I'm scared of being laughed at? You people might as well be from another planet. The New World Order could put a gun to my head and say, join us or die. And I'd say, go ahead and pull that trigger. I will join the New World Order when hell freezes over solid from the top to bottom, end to end. When pigs fly. You people are governed by what people think about you. because you haven't tuned into the universe. You've tuned into your own little narcissistic self, looking at your own reflection instead of seeing the reflection of God's face in the heavens. We'll be right back.
The GCN Radio Network.
I'm not going to belabor financially supporting us, but you know the level of attack we're under. We got great books, great videos, great T-shirts, great preparedness items, great storable foods, everything at InfoWarsStore.com. And we got shortwave crank radios at the best prices. Just hundreds and hundreds of amazing items at InfoWarsStore.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. In other news, intelligence head who led to Congress bans employees from talking to media. Or intelligence head who lied to Congress bans employees from talking to the media. Police recruitment video shows cops in military-style ghillie suits. Cher says Tea Party plague on mankind ends tweet with F-bomb. Unedited video shows Bundy making pro-black, pro-Mexican comments. Trans-Pacific Partnership talks begin for global internet censorship plan. That's a Red Alert article right there. For progressives, thought crime is worse than mass murder. Yeah, Obama bombing Africa is fine. Just don't say that blacks are under a new form of slavery. The Mark, scientist claims human microchip implants will become not optional. That's just some of the news up on Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. And pray for peace in the Ukraine situation. That's escalating into what they're calling World War III possibilities in mainstream news. Here is John Bound's report. What's the title of this report we posted to YouTube for folks? The Apathy Zone. The Apathy Zone. Not the Twilight Zone, the Apathy Zone. This is John Bound's report.
This highway leads to the tip of reality. You're on a through route to the land of the different, the bizarre, the unexplained. Go as far as you want on this road. Its limits are only those of the mind. Ladies and gentlemen, you're entering a wondrous dimension of mind control. Next stop, the Apathy Zone.
Case in point, a naked man runs down the side of a busy highway. Yet most people remain oblivious.
Put some clothes on. Go to the side of the road, you're going to get hurt. Why you got to be naked? Why you got to be naked right now? Were you in a wreck or something? What's going on? Get out of the road. Get out of the road.
Just another day in the land of apathy. Slowing down reality, we can peer into the lives of Mr. and Mrs. John Q. Public as they remain aloof to the clear and present dangers all around them.
I'm going to bring that guy some clothes, what I could grab from my house real quick. But who knows? I mean, the guy, he could possibly be completely crazy, or he could have been involved in something we know nothing about. Car accident. He could have been thrown out of his house. Who knows? Oh, you talked to him? Oh, yeah. When he got over? Yeah. What did he do when he got over here? Did he just sit down? No, he was paranoid, man. Okay, did he try to go inside, or? Yeah, he went inside. I was inside when he got here. Do you think he's maybe schizophrenic? Schizo or on drugs. Yeah. Yeah. He's the same. He wasn't saying he was escaping a situation or anything. He was just... No.
Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the rights, the dignity, the worth of man, that state is obsolete.
No, you're gonna be all right, man. You're gonna be all right.
There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between fight or flight, between stupidity and genius. And it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of mind control. It is an area which we call the Apathy Zone.
And if you are aware of the mind control, you can beat it. It's the only way. 7 o'clock tonight, InfoWars Nightly News. We'll post that video up on Infowars.com. It's not up yet. It'll be up there in the next hour if you want to see the mind control zone. All right. Great job, crew. Start. And a lot of libertarian and conservative talk show hosts are scared, and they're going to join with the globalists in the takeover of this country. And they're going to demonize anybody who stands up for freedom and the Constitution, and they're going to salute the black uniforms as I and others like Ron Paul are hauled off to prison. And as Rand Paul is discredited and destroyed. I don't think it's going to get to that because the American people aren't going to be intimidated and called racist and called terrorist. That's not going to work. You know, calling anybody that supports land rights or anybody that doesn't want free speech zones or snipers pointing guns at peaceful protesters with tasers and police dogs. If you don't like that, you're a domestic terrorist, you're an insurgent, you're an extremist, and yes, you're a racist if they can find anybody involved who talks in a hillbilly dialect. That's how all this propaganda works. And a lot of people get scared by it. And a lot of Republican leadership wants to continue the land grabs. They want to continue the bid rigging. They want to continue the no-bid contracts. They want to continue business as usual. Well, business as usual is collapsing this country. And we either change course now or we go off the edge into oblivion. Now, I'm going to talk with Knight briefly about what he heard Beck say last night. And I guess we're going to dig through the video and audio files of it yesterday and post it just to document what we're saying. But it doesn't matter. A lot of you probably heard it, saying that we want violence and that we're basically covering up the racism of Bundy and that we were out there at the ranch 2 weeks ago when he said all this, when we all now know this was taped Saturday and not by our reporters. And, of course, we reported on it. I mean, it's one thing to say Bundy could be a hillbilly or maybe racist. I don't think that's the case. He's certainly a fossil, though. And I think some of the stuff he said could be taken as offensive. I mean, like, there's black people out here. I'll bring one in the house and got them around here. I mean, it's just literally out in the middle of nowhere. It'd be like, I brought a Yankee in here. I saw one of them. City slicker. I mean, these are folks in the desert 7 generations. So, I mean, I think the Bundys are good people overall, and I think he just says what he's thinking. But compared to aborting 52% of black people, compared to all the other evil that's going on around here, we're letting them change the subject off of what almost became a new Tiananmen Square out there in the desert onto a statement. And by the way, we have the unedited statements of Cliven Bundy up on Infowars.com where he said everything he said about, I want to help black folks in the Spanish. Nobody, I don't want to hear they don't pay taxes and work hard. It's wrong. They need their liberty, and we don't need to reverse the changes that were made during the 60s for liberty. We don't need to go back, and that's what this big government's doing. We've got the full video up on Infowars.com and the transcript, so now I see what he's saying about it being out of context. Because when I had him on yesterday, because we were trying to cover it up, that's why we were the first to recover it and get a response from him, the first that we know of. I think it was one of the radio show had him on before us, I saw on Drudge. So I guess the second. The point is, within hours of this breaking in the New York Times, the day it broke, we have him on and are sitting there saying we don't agree with the way this had been spun and making sure this wasn't what he really stood for. And then we've already got MSNBC, CNN, and Glenn Beck, and Media Matters, and Vanity Fair saying that I'm with this guy and that I want violent overthrow. That's not what Bundy wants, and that I'm a racist. I mean, it's just really, really creepy to have this type of stuff going on. And now it turns out he was telling the truth. People go, well, he did make the cotton picking point. Yes, he was saying that that was not in the context of the quote. And now we have the full quote, and it turns out he was telling the truth. So now that you see it in full context, clearly this is like my great-grandfathers. I talked to my parents about this last night, did not talk like this. But I've always run into hillbillies in the middle of nowhere that do talk like this. And they're actually not racist. They are literally out of a time machine. But there's bad things if you go back in a time machine. There's also good things. They're saying no to the feds and no to Tiananmen Square because they're so old-fashioned. That's the good part of their...
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Russia situation just went from orange to red. It is now, in my mind, at a critical juncture. I want to get Ray McGovern, former CIA analyst, on very soon to talk about this. I want to get Colonel Schaefer on to give us his take on it. But quite frankly, I've been studying it very deeply, and we've been predicting where this would go. And unfortunately, it's going that direction because the globalists want it to go in that direction, and it's a very serious situation, to say the least. We're going to be breaking that down today. Ukrainian helicopter hit by grenade taking off. Ukraine helicopter has been crippled in a grenade attack in Kiev. Warns Moscow is engineering a third world war. That's the London Telegraph headline. Did you hear that? Third world war. That is the Ukraine foreign minister that's saying that, by the way, and also their vice El Presidente. Ukraine foreign minister ready to fight Russia is the headline from the Associated Press. Kerry warns Russia of expensive new sanctions. Putin warns of consequences as Ukraine steps up offensive. Russia wants to start World War III, Ukrainian prime minister. That's in CNBC. I mean, I'm reading mainline headlines here. Remember I told you a month ago this could turn into World War III? Oh, Alex, don't be a fearmonger. What, do the ICBMs have to come into orbit, back into orbit, or back into the atmosphere and then come in and detonate over cities and airburst for us to be concerned? How traders can prepare for a worsening Ukraine crisis, CNBC. Russia now downgraded by S&P, proposes scorched earth retaliation against NATO countries economically. Pentagon, Russian spy ship tug operating near U.S. More Big Bear nuke bombers caught trying to go into British and European airspace. I mean, this is bad. And it's what you expect when the globalists want to bring in a new global crisis so that we're all distracted by their activities. And it is thoroughly disgusting that this is happening. The West went in 3 months ago when Ukraine voted to not join with the EU and to be sucked dry by that spider, and instead tried to stay somewhat neutral. I don't want Ukraine sucked dry by the Russian spider or the globalist spider. But the globalist spider is about, I don't know, let's not exaggerate, about 10 times bigger, fatter, older, more evil, and more anti-human. I mean, the Russian spider is just happy to be in power and control of its own population, is trying to breed a larger Ruski population because it realizes that its own system is collapsing. The globalist spider is a transhumanist, power-tripping spider that believes it's God and is attacking anything decent. So that's what we're dealing with here. And I mean, this is a big deal. I've got masses of incredible news here. And I don't know how I even get into the other news on the stock market and the police state and attacks on internet freedom, which we will cover, while we've got this Ukraine situation going on. But really, we've stated the facts. The facts are there. And it's deteriorating very quickly. When we come back, I'm going to try to very calmly walk through the scenario so far and then where the scenario will go in the future, or could go in the future. And it's going the very worst way. So that is all coming up today. But we've always known that a large global war is what's supposed to bring in the final world government. That's what the globalists have said themselves. And now it looks like they're trying to do it. They may have some backroom deal with Putin, and this may be staged. My gut tells me it's not. And that we're in a world of hurt. And he knows, because I've talked to some program directors, that there's little comments and things going on from the people in his office, not even a syndicator, Premier, about me and how I'm a bad show to have. And this has been going on behind the scenes. And then a lot of times I'm on live and Glenn Beck's on at night. He doesn't like that. He's an egomaniac. My show ends up getting picked up on Sunday live. While we do that show, people get a taste of it. Then they put us on at night, and then invariably we end up going on live. And I mean, they literally replace Rush Limbaugh with us in areas of the country and get better ratings. And I'm not I never had this slot to go up against Rush Limbaugh. I didn't want this slot. I had a nighttime show that GCN made me 17 years ago change to a daytime slot. And I said, I think it's a horrible idea. I don't want to go up against Rush Limbaugh. I need to go after stations at night. There's no way stations are going to dump Limbaugh for me. And they said, you're so good. His name was Michael Trudeau, and Ted Anderson still runs the network, but Michael Trudeau was like, I'm going to put Sean up against him. You're going to take over. Well, I guess he was about 15 years, early on that. But the point is that I want Rush Limbaugh to be on every TV station in the country because his ideas are a lot better than what the controlled left puts out. I want Glenn Beck to have 50 million listeners. I want Glenn Beck to sell 100 million books. I want Glenn Beck to have long days, pleasant nights. Because I agree with most of what he has to say. But, man, it's a big deal when somebody says you're a racist with no proof. It's a big deal. When they say that that you want to overthrow the U.S. government and have violence to, 5, 6, 7, 8 million people a day, I mean, that's really meant to hurt me. I mean, I don't care when MSNBC says it with 500,000 viewers and people know they're a pack of liars. That's a big deal when Glenn Beck does that to me. And I don't know what he thinks I'm going to do. I mean, I'm not going to take that line down. So, we've got such bigger issues with Russia, huge issues with Obama trying to get the guns, trying to bust the borders, overrunning the Constitution, that I'll probably just let him walk all over me. But at a certain level, man, when people don't want you to be on the air and they want to get you off stations and they'll lie about you to do it, and I'm not even in competition with him. And Rush Limbaugh's done nothing bad to me. He's said snide things about me a few times when he didn't agree with something somebody wrote on my website, and that's fine. I don't agree with everything on there, but a lot of times he covers our stories. He doesn't really give us credit. But I happen to know from behind the scenes some folks that play golf with him that he actually agrees with us more than he disagrees and listens to the show sometimes. Limbaugh, we're in competition with Rush Limbaugh, directly up against him. And he doesn't do this kind of crap. And I mean, this is dangerous, folks, to have somebody on the air saying that you want to overthrow the government, want a violent overthrow. We already played clips like that 2 weeks ago. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today. But I dare somebody like Glenn Beck to say that to my face. That's all I've got to say. Because I got a family, and I've already put myself in the crosshairs. And this is Benedict Arnold type stuff, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is textbook Benedict Arnold crap. And our affiliates out there who listen, the program directors and owners, they know what I say on air, and they're standing beside us and supporting us and not dumping our show, Beck. Go make your movies. Go write your books. Do whatever you're going to do, man. I'm not jealous or envious of you. Okay? I understand until 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, you were a shock jock that did shock trash, type radio. Howard Stern wannabe stuff. I don't care. I understand you picked up my show and duplicated it and made it more palatable. I understand that you're obsessed with me. I understand that. I get it, okay? But listen, I'm happy for you to imitate me and to take my knowledge. That's the whole point of this show. I want to beat the globalists. So I'm going to tell you again, stop now. Stop trying to set me up with Rachel Maddow in the White House. You may work with them.
Gentlemen, in search of $1 million.
But it knows the good guys lost.
The truth is, the globalists are gearing up for a civil war in this country. They're going to say old-fashionedness is to be straight shooting and to stand up against tyranny. But then it's like talking to somebody who got off a time machine from 150 years ago. It sounds really weird to modern trendies and metrosexuals and everybody else, and quite frankly, myself included. Because he's such a straight shooter and tells you exactly what he's thinking, no political correctness. But wouldn't you rather that than the new religion of political correctness? Now, when we come back, the really big news that this is distracting from. This Bundy thing's becoming like the Malaysian airliner. Russia wants to start World War III, Ukrainian prime minister.
We're on.
Science fiction becomes reality. Thank you, Charlton Heston. We reported about a month ago, and people didn't even believe the story, that UK hospitals were burning the bodies of aborted babies to heat the hospitals. Well, LifeSite News Breitbart, and the Examiner, Drudge has it, drudgereport.com, are all reporting Oregon energy plant burns aborted babies to generate electricity for the state. And now the state is saying that they're going to halt that. Oregon County put stop to incinerating aborted babies for electricity. Quote, "We are outraged." They didn't even know that was going on. And meanwhile, speaking of Oregon, Cover Oregon Health Exchange website to shut down. I mean, that's how fraudulent all of this garbage is via Obamacare. Now, here's the big news today, and it ties in to the attack on free speech as well. There's just a war on every front and a bunch of key economic news. This news is so big that, quite frankly, I shouldn't cover anything but this. But what I'm going to do is, at the start of the next hour, I will focus as professionally as I can and muster all of my oratory skills and try to break down what's happened in Ukraine and where I believe it's going. Now, you know, so far I've predicted what was going to happen, and it's starting to happen. It's not hard to predict. This is a globalist plan. So I'm really looking at what they're doing, what they've done in the past and their programs of destabilization. And so it's not really even predicting, except this is Russia, and the outcomes are so horrible that I can't believe this is happening. And if I was a coward, or even if I had more self-preservation instincts, I would be getting my family out of the United States right now. And I'm not saying that that means we're going to have a nuclear war. But if there was, say, a 10% chance that there was going to be a nuclear war, would you get your family out of major target sites, like the middle of Texas? Or if there was a 10% chance robbers were coming to kill you, would you get out of your house that night? I'd say there's a 10% chance, probably higher, that we're going to have a full-out nuclear war. And people have heard my show for 19 years. Some of you have been listening that long in Austin. Been syndicated for almost 18. You know I've never talked like that. Usually nuclear war threats are just stuff the government uses to hype. This is a really bad situation. It's so horrible that it's beyond having a nasty feeling in my mind and in my chest and my stomach. It's more just a feeling of unbelief, disbelief. Let me just read you these headlines, okay? And then I'm going to get to this at the start of the next hour. Russia wants to start World War III, Ukrainian Prime Minister. That's CNBC. That's not Alex Jones. Here's AP. Ukraine Foreign Minister ready to fight Russia. AP. London Telegraph. Ukraine helicopter hit by a grenade taking off. A Ukraine helicopter has been crippled in a grenade attack as Kiev warns Moscow is engineering a third world war. Third world war. Did you hear that? Putin warns of consequences as Ukraine steps up offensive. Bloomberg. Kerry warns Russia of expensive new sanctions. On the heels of that, S&P downgrades Russia. Russia threatens scorched earth retaliation against NATO countries. Truly out of control. The globalists aren't going to let their system collapse without starting a world war. They're going to double down every time they're in a corner. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Straight ahead, big Bundy news as well. It's all coming up today. Why President Eisenhower for warning us of the dangerous rise of the military-industrial complex, and later in the speech, controlled by a technological elite. That is what we're facing, is a technocracy in the Bilderberg and Davos Group's own words. I am your host, Alex Jones, just someone who wants freedom, who's upset and angry, but also focused and mobilized in the face of this tyranny. And we have reached out to you. You have reached out to us. We've reached out to millions of others across the world, and we're having a real effect. That's why we're being attacked by all the White House mouthpieces, the globalist mouthpieces, and collaborators in the so-called liberty movement, Benedict Arnold's, to try to bring us down. And we are being prepared to be set up right now. That is clear, that they don't like the message we're putting out and the fact that it's resonating and being duplicated and being augmented and expanded. And so there's going to be some more demonization campaigns out there. Now I'm going to get into the off-the-chart news in Russia. off-the-chart news on the attack on free speech coming up in a moment. David Knight has been down here for over a year, one of our great reporters and co-host of this radio show and also the Nightly News. It's very hard to get a house here, buy a house here, because it has the biggest housing shortage in the country. Austin is the major boom city nationwide as people escape California and other areas destroyed by big government. And then they come here and vote to take our freedom. But hopefully folks from North Carolina and Kansas and Tennessee and a lot of other more libertarian areas will offset the socialists that are moving here. A lot of good Californians are moving here as well to escape it, but a lot of them are coming here to bring in their tyranny. But he's been off the last few days moving. And I guess out of one apartment into a house while they still try to buy a house. And so he's been listening to talk radio. He was listening to our local affiliate, 590 AM last night, because his brother-in-law out of North Carolina called him and said, you better go listen to Glenn Beck. Well, it re-airs here locally. And so he tuned in last night while packing the U-Haul, and he said, you know, we got to go into Glenn Beck's archive and find it. But he said, this is really bad. We have to do something about this. And I said, what did he say? He said, well, I'll just come in and tell you. But he told me over the phone right before broadcast. He's driving up here right now to be on in the next segment or at the bottom of the hour. Beck said that we want violent overthrow of the U.S. government, InfoWars, by name. And that we tried to cover up the Bundy supposed racist comments and that we were there and that basically that was our video or that we knew and tried to cover it up. Our people were there a week and a half ago. This was said last weekend. None of my reporters were there. We covered it yesterday when we saw it in the morning. When it had been out less than 12 hours, we got Bundy on. And I said the way they edited his comments, I think sounded, you know, very offensive and racist, but that I understood where he was coming from. And he said, no, I meant they've traded out one form of slavery for the other. But to basically say we're racist and we want violence. I mean, Beck, there's a reason you're getting sued right now, okay? And I don't think you're going to win. And I don't intend anything like that. But look, what you're doing is torturous interference. I know you're obsessed with my show. I know you watch it for years and take our guest and spin it. I don't care. That's fine. I just want to defeat tyranny. But what I'm trying to get at here is that he's putting out the exact talking points of Media Matters that on record is the White House, Direct conduit from the White House telling them what to do and say. MSNBC, CNN, I understand saying I'm behind the Boston bombing and I'm deeply racist and, you know, all the rest of it. But to have Glenn Beck doing it, and I know what this is. He knows we're getting on affiliates all over the country. The show's exploding right now. Most of the stations we're on carry Glenn Beck.